Chapter 1263. Oh no! Could Big Brother Xiao Chen have entered a state of berserking qi deviation? Yu Chenxi, Xinyuan Zhantian, Gong Yangyu, and the others all gathered at the foot of the mountain, all of them speaking anxiously and worriedly. Some people could not resist rushing up the mountain to take a look. Stop right there. No one is to move. The Life Reaper Azura Lan Chaofeng appeared silently. When he saw the dark clouds covering the mountain and the ever-changing demons, his expression suddenly changed. I heard that Lan Chaofeng asked Demochin to collect peak-grade demon fiend rocks. Could this little fellow have taken that path? Senior Lan, what's going on? Did Big Brother Xiao Chen enter a state of berserking qi deviation? Lan Chaofeng did not say anything. He formed hand seals and quickly formed hand seals. The primordial energy in his body surged, and a terrifying aura spread out from his body. Then Lan Chaofeng pointed to the sky, and a vast barrier directly sealed off this place, including the mountain where Xiao Chen cultivated. Even Lan Chaofeng found it somewhat taxing to seal off such a large place. He wiped the sweat off his forehead and said calmly, "Keep today's matter a secret. Xiao Chen cannot be disturbed by anyone right now. If anything goes wrong, this little fellow will be completely destroyed. The few of you, scatter to the periphery. If you discover anyone suspicious and do not heed the first warning, you can directly make a move. I will personally guard this mountain." Yes. Lan Chaofeng had never seen Lan Chaofeng so anxious before. After hearing his orders, Yu Chenxi and the others did not say anything else. They scattered to guard the periphery. As for Lan Chaofeng himself, he personally remained at the foot of the mountain to guard Xiao Chen. As Lan Chaofeng looked at the terrifying black demonic qi on the mountain, he said with lingering fear, "This little fellow. That is a taboo that even I do not dare to touch." Just how many peak-grade demon fiend rocks did he absorb? 3, or did he surpass the taboo and refine 4? If Lan Chaofeng knew that Xiao Chen refined 7 in one go, he would disregard everything to stop Xiao Chen. In the chaotic sea of consciousness, demons and monsters danced wildly and a boundless baleful aura surged continuously. The moment the phenomenon first appeared, the surging murderous aura instantly caused Xiao Chen's heart to waver. Slaughter, hatred, pain, jealousy, and various other negative emotions assaulted him, causing him to be unable to endure it and almost collapse. So painful, so painful. Amid the chaos, Xiao Chen could not even form a saber soul. He held his head with both hands and knelt on the ground. The expression on his face changed unpredictably, showing pain and conflict. In his eyes, the world was completely distorted. Those demons that were born from negative emotions. In his heart, it was distorted and exaggerated beyond recognition. The entire world was a blur, and he couldn't see anything clearly at all. Refining 7 top-grade devil fiend rocks at the same time would multiply the effects, but the danger would also multiply. As soon as he appeared, he gave Xiao Chen a show of strength. If he didn't wake up, his entire soul would be occupied by negative emotions, and he would become a devil who would kill without blinking an eye. Throughout history, there had been many outstanding talents and ambitious overlords who fell to demon fiend rocks. This was not strange at all. Shortcuts were not that easy to take. The torture continued, and the pain intensified. Xiao Chen's mind turned chaotic as he howled in pain. Piercing auditory hallucinations appeared in Xiao Chen's ears. Horrifying mysterious phenomena appeared before him, and despair filled his heart. Gaga gaga. You are just an arrogant maniac. Do you think that you are very incredible? If not for the Thunder Sovereign standing behind you, who knows how many times you would have been killed already? You are just a bastard. Serves you right to be chased out of your clan. Your blood is cold and your heart is ice. Serves you right to be rejected by others. Serves you right to die before advancing to Martial Emperor in 5 years. Piercing auditory hallucinations rang out in Xiao Chen's ears. Even when he covered his ears, he could not block out this sound. Endless illusions appeared before Xiao Chen. The most horrifying one was when he underwent his great tribulation of wind and fire, burning to death on the Emperor's road, dying while he was just 1 step away from the Emperor's door. When Xiao Chen saw it with his own eyes, It was like experiencing it for himself. It felt incredibly real. Everyone in the world started mocking Xiao Chen. Indeed, he was a short-lived person. Meteor, oh meteor. Whoever laughs last is the true hero. These people included the Zodiac Hall's young master, Di Wuk, the Ghost Monarch's personal disciple, and the Xingtian's followers. There were also the people that Xiao Chen once trampled on, all of them laughing wantonly. The laughter was piercing, overlapping with the auditory hallucinations. It was so painful that one wished for death, on the verge of collapse. A voice of despair rang out in Xiao Chen's heart. Just give up. Living is too tiring. Who is as bitter as you, becoming Emperor Wu and getting attacked by half of the primes in the world? Who is like you? Driven by the responsibility in your heart, wanting to restore the sect of your ancestors? However, you have to hide and sneak around? You live in fear, fearing that if you take a wrong step, you will be consigned to eternal damnation. You even implicate your friends and family. Who is as lonely as you? You clearly have someone you love, but you do not dare to bring her to your side, fearing that someone will harm you and make an irreparable mistake? Who can understand your helplessness? You are clearly just walking your own path, yet you suffer from all sorts of people, clowns, insulting and mocking you endlessly, whether openly or in the dark. Blue Dragon King, looking at the world, who is as bitter as you? Who is as lonely as you? Who is as bitter as you? Who is as lonely as you? Give up. Give up. You have to hate. You have to hate that bastard Qing Emperor for leaving behind a huge mess for an innocent person like you to bear. You have to hate. You have to hate that hypocrite Thunder King. You are clearly being hunted down, yet he watches from the back and does not make a move. You have to hate. You have to hate those insignificant people. Who gave them the authority to wantonly insult? No matter whether you are right or wrong, they will curse you and curse you to hell, waiting for you to be consigned to eternal damnation, watching you make a joke of yourself. Xiao Chen's eyes turned hazy, appearing somewhat crazed and somewhat cold. He muttered, "Right, I have to hate. I have to hate. I have to hate that heaven is unfair to me. The Qing Emperor caused my emperor's path to be filled with suffering. The Thunder King is putting on an act for my own good. There are so many insignificant people gossiping about me." At the foot of the mountain, Lan Chaofeng's expression suddenly turned wild. His barrier shook continuously, and a surging demonic flame and baleful aura soared into the sky. What's going on? How many peak-grade demon fiend rocks did he refine at the same time? Lan Chaofeng stood up with a grave expression. A horrified expression flashed in his eyes. In his sea of consciousness, Xiao Chen, who was on the verge of falling into depravity, felt significantly less pain. If you want to kill and cannot find the Qing Emperor, then kill all the descendants of the Qing Emperor. Those Xiao clan members in the Sky Dome realm all have the bloodline of the Qing Emperor. They all deserve to die. If you want to kill the Thunder King, that hypocrite. That old fellow is immortal for 10,000 years and should have died long ago. If you want to kill all the dancing clowns and insignificant people. Do not leave a single one alive. The voice in Xiao Chen's heart rang out again. His eyes turned scarlet, and a strong killing intent surged from his entire body. That's right. I want to kill. I want to kill. I want to kill. Kill. The voice in Lan Chaofeng's sea of consciousness shouted. In reality, Xiao Chen suddenly opened his eyes. A scarlet light flashed in his eyes as he roared, "Kill! Rumble!" Immediately, the originally shaky barrier crumbled. Boundless demonic chi formed a black pillar of light from the summit and soared into the sky, tearing through the clouds. Lan Chaofeng took a step back and muttered, "It's over. I can't hide even if I wanted to now." What's going on? Mo Chen and Lan Xiaobai rushed over and asked with horror on their faces, not understanding what happened. Lan Chaofeng waved his hand and said with a grave expression, "Don't ask anything. Spread out and don't let anyone near. You will not be able to block people on the level of Emperor Wu. Let them in. I'll guard them." Right now, Xiao Chen is at the most crucial moment. He cannot allow anyone to disturb him. He already has half a foot in the deep abyss, entering the demonic Tao. Stepping into the deep abyss, entering the demonic Tao. These words frightened Mo Chen and Lan Xiaobai into paling, and they could not help crying out. How can it be like this? How can it be like this? Mo Chen muttered, somewhat at a loss. Lan Xiaofeng sighed. This fellow probably pushed himself too hard, wanting to have another trump card on the day of the ceremony. Never mind, this is not the time to speak nonsense. Quickly organize the people. Don't let ordinary people pass through. If he really kills someone, he will never be able to turn back. Mo Chen and Lan Xiaobai could hear the urgency in Lan Xiaofeng's words. They did not dare to linger, immediately leaving to carry out the order. As Xiao Chen's conferred land, Heaven Dragon City had risen very quickly recently. It would be impossible to say that there were no experts of hostile factions hiding in the city. This was an extremely normal thing. The various large factions were very intertwined with each other. They all infiltrated each other. The Holy Lands were no exception. Normally, Mo Chen and the others would not care. After all, the other party did not do anything. They could not possibly chase him out just because he was strong. However, at this crucial moment, this was what they feared the most. As long as the other party caused trouble and entered the demonic Tao, it would be over. At the same time, a voice rang out in Xiao Chen's heart again, where the demonic flame gathered. You want to become a demon? Only by becoming a demon can you be free. Only by becoming a demon can you be omnipotent, fearless, able to kill whoever you want. Fall into the darkness and become a demon. The voice in Xiao Chen's heart gave off a boundless temptation. I want to hate, I want to kill, I want to become a demon. The sun hung high in the sky, illuminating the world and making it bright. Heavenly Star Island was as calm as usual. However, it was accompanied by the heart-wrenching word, kill. At the peak that belonged to Xiaochen to the northwest of Heaven Dragon City, an overwhelming demonic light soared into the sky. In an instant, the sky darkened, as if it was night, pitch black. Only that black demonic light was piercingly bright and eye-catching. Immediately, the entire city turned flustered, not knowing what to do. The dark clouds made everyone flustered and tremble. What's going on? Is a great demon about to appear? What a horrifying demonic flame. I have only seen such a scene in the Black Sea. A greater heavenly emperor Wu fell into the demonic Tao and killed half the people of the sea region. Finally, the 13 great bandits had to work together to kill that person. However, isn't that the peak of the Blue Dragon King Xiaoqin? How can there be such a horrifying demonic flame? Could it be that the Blue Dragon King entered berserking Qi deviation? Chapter 1264. The city was in an uproar. This news was explosive enough. It was hard for people not to be shocked. That's probably true. The Blue Dragon King's power is growing too fast. It's not surprising that he would go berserk. Let's go take a look. Those who were not afraid of death could not resist the curiosity in their hearts and rushed towards the mountain peak. In an instant, figures flickered in the sky. Tens of thousands of people soared into the air, all flying towards the same direction. The scene was incomparably spectacular. At the same time, in a few inconspicuous shops in Heaven Dragon City, several ordinary-looking old men walked out and looked coldly at the soaring demonic light. Among them, there were people from the immortal Holy Lands like Zodiac Hall, Five Poison Sect, Myriad Fiend Island, Yin-Yang Paradise, and Moon Palace. There were also people from ancient families and forces like the Dragon Palaces of the Four Seas. Without exception, they were all emperors. A few of them even had the strength of Emperor Wu at the second sky. In just 1 year, the Heaven Dragon City became the center of the Western Sea. The speed of its rise was unprecedented. The various major factions of the Heavenly Starry Ocean all saw this and did not lower their guard. Even if they didn't want to be enemies with Heaven Dragon City, they had to show that they valued this city. They had sent their emperor-level experts to guard the city. It could appear instantly in unexpected situations, such as when the Heaven Dragon City's West Sea Dragon Palace was destroyed. The hidden Emperor Wu would jump out and stop the West Ocean Dragon Palace from taking all the territories. For example, Blue Dragon King Xiaochen had suddenly gone berserk. Now that there was an emperor-level powerhouse present, they could make a good decision. After a while, Many martial monarchs sneered and made up their minds. They silently walked towards the mountain peak. There were also a few Emperor Wu who chose to remain neutral after remaining silent for a long time. For example, the experts of the Myriad Fiend Island, the Lunar Palace, and the Yin-Yang Paradise did not act rashly. At the peak where Xiao Chen was, Mo Chen and the others saw batches of cultivators rushing over. After failing to persuade them for a long time, they chose to kill. I repeat, this is the forbidden area of the Heaven Dragon City. Anyone who dares to come near will be killed. Mo Chen said coldly, killing a small perfection blue-robed emperor who tried to barge in with a palm strike. There were at least 1 or 2 corpses of cultivators who had tried to barge in, but had been killed. Such a cold and frightening scene finally shocked the people who came to watch the show. After all, no matter how heavy their curiosity was, it was needless to say which was more important compared to their lives. Step down, all of you. You won't be able to interfere in today's matter. There's nothing interesting to see inside. Lan Xiaobai's words were calm, but there was an undeniable tone in his tone. Although it was a request, it was also an order. With some corpses as a foil, his words were filled with deterrence. Despite their reluctance, some of them still retreated obediently. After retreating for 10,000 meters, they stopped and continued to watch from afar. Jean Lin could not help cursing. This group of people is really not afraid of death. Asking them to retreat is for their own good. Even now, they are not willing to leave. Lan Xiaobai rubbed his temples and said, "Never mind. We have already retreated far enough. It's up to them." Mo Chen said worriedly, "Earlier, there were at least 5 Emperor Wus who passed through our blockade." Lan Xiaobai turned his head and said, "I know. I'll leave this to Master. We can no longer block existences on the level of Emperor Wu." Mo Chen hesitated for a while before turning her head back and asking, "Do you think that big brother Xiao Chen can return?" Lan Xiaobai was not in a rush to answer. After a while, he said, "I believe him. Although he looks cold on the outside, his heart is warm. I don't believe that he will fall into the demonic Tao." At the foot of the mountain, Lan Chaofeng looked coldly at the 4 people in front. He said, "The Heavenly Province Academy, the Eastern Sea Divine Dragon Palace, the 5 Poison Sect, and the ancient noble clans Old Jiang. I really did not know that this insignificant Heaven Dragon City hid so many Emperor Wus." When the 4 saw Lan Chaofeng, they were slightly stunned. Unexpectedly, Lan Chaofeng, who was known as the life-reaping Azura, would appear at this moment. After thinking for a while, the elegant old man from the Heavenly Province Academy said, "Senior Lan, you have seen the situation for yourself. The Blue Dragon King Xiao Chen has already taken half a step into the demonic Tao. This is the best time to kill him. If he really becomes a demon, he will bring a calamity to the entire heavenly starry ocean." That's right. You are also aware of his talent. Once such a demon matures, I dare say that he will endanger the entire Kunlun realm. Senior Lan, you should not stop us. You should charge up with us and kill this demon while he is still in the cradle." Lan Chaofeng retorted indifferently, "What are you arguing about? Isn't he still half a step into the demonic Tao? Don't label him as a demon so early. At the very least, he has not killed a single person yet and has not formally entered the demonic Tao yet. If we really wait for him to become a demon, it will be too late. Senior Lan, you'd better not be blind and become a sinner for all time," the old man from the 5 Poison Sect said in a strange tone, his words extremely vicious. "If you want to protect someone, you have to see when. If we kill him now, the Thunder King will not dare to say anything. We are killing a demon, a powerful demon. He will be remembered in history as a hero." The black-clad old man from the Eastern Sea Divine Dragon Palace said righteously, "Senior Lan, it's fine if you don't make a move, but don't stop us. Don't think that we are afraid of you just because you are the life-reaping Azura. Even if we attack together, you might not be a match for us." The ancient noble clans Old Jiang took a step forward, feeling a sense of danger. Lan Chaofeng smiled coldly and said, "After not making a move for so many years, do you really think that I, the life-reaping Azura, am an old man?" A horrifying killing chi suddenly erupted from Lan Chaofeng's body. The four's eyes turned dazed as they saw a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood behind Lan Xiaofeng. There were even the corpses of famous Emperor Wu bobbing up and down in the sea of blood, shrieking miserably. The four immediately panicked. Just how many Emperor Wu did this fellow kill to generate such a horrifying killing qi? Miserable shrieks rang out. Before the ancient noble clan's old Jiang could understand what was going on, his two arms flew up at the same time, and blood spurted out from his arms. However, to the others, Lan Xiaofeng did not move at all. However, a dagger flickering with cold light had appeared in his hand at some point in time. The dagger danced between Lan Xiaofeng's fingers as he said indifferently, "Breaking your arms is a lesson for you. You are just a group of First Heaven Emperor Wu. Killing you is no different from killing dogs. Scram." However, just at this moment, a flash of starlight flashed, taking advantage of the moment when Lan Xiaofeng attacked. Lan Xiaofeng's heart sank. "Oh no, I let the people from Zodiac Hall sneak in. Furthermore, based on the aura, it is a second heaven Emperor Wu." However, if Lan Xiaofeng gave chase at this moment, the four before him would definitely not just obediently retreat. Lan Xiaofeng immediately fell into a dilemma. He could only let that astral palace Emperor Wu fly to the summit. Up at the summit, the voice in Xiao Chen's heart continued to shout enticingly, "I want to become a demon. I want to become a demon. I want to become a demon. I want to make Xiao Chen say this personally." Boundless hatred filled him with murderous intent, and the murderous intent pushed him 1 foot into the abyss of becoming a demon. Many outstanding talents in history ended up entering berserking qi deviation because their mental states failed to keep up as their strength increased. As a result, they lost themselves in the face of desire. Xiao Chen's mental state was several times higher than that of his peers. Even many of the older generation could not compare to him. Unexpectedly, refining 7-peak grade demon fiend rocks at the same time triggered a heart demon that was too strong. Caught off guard, Xiao Chen fell for it, not giving him any buffer time at all. The small hatred in Xiao Chen's heart magnified infinitely, turning into a surging killing intent. Right now, as long as Xiao Chen took another step forward, he could no longer turn back. At this moment, Xiao Chen's heart was already completely suppressed. Although he still had a weak trace of rationality, he put up a final resistance. He didn't say that he wanted to become a demon. However, if he encountered external pressure, he would be able to resist it. However, if he ran into any external pressure, he would turn into duckweed, swept away by a wave. Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, felt very anxious. However, she could not think of any good ideas. At this moment, no one else could help Xiao Chen. He could only rely on his own willpower. However, Xiao Chen's willpower, which had always been successful, was put to a severe test this time. He could fall at any moment. What should I do? What should I do? No matter how much Ao Jiao thought about it, she could not think of any good ideas. Refining 7-peak grade demon fiend rocks at the same time. Since ancient times, no one had ever been so bold. Even those madmen would not dare to do such a thing. At this critical moment, Xiao Chen's peak will of thunder suddenly gave off a loud roar. The strong might of thunder exploded in his sea of consciousness. The will of thunder, which was only 1 step away from becoming an innate thunder crystal, let out its own furious roar at this moment. The bewitching voice in Xiao Chen's heart paused momentarily before this explosion of thunder. The roaring thunder could rupture eardrums and make one's heart tremble. However, to Xiao Chen at this moment, it sounded as pleasant as celestial music. His heart, which had been suppressed by chaos, finally obtained temporary peace. Several heartwarming scenes appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. Xiao Chen learned the Saber Dao under Lu Ryue's tutelage on Qingyun Peak. The many disciples of the Xiao clan in Mo City knelt down and pleaded for Xiao Chen. During the king conferral ceremony, the Thunder King stepped forward and personally saved Xiao Chen from Emperor Forsaken. On Heavenly Star Island, the gazes of his companions filled with respect and hope. Along the way, I have never been alone. Amid the mysterious phenomenon, the murderous intent in Xiao Chen's eyes receded like the receding tide, his hatred vanishing. Cold sweat trickled down Xiao Chen's forehead. When he thought of what happened earlier, he felt a lingering fear. How dangerous! It did not give me any buffer time at all. If not for the will of thunder shocking the baleful aura for a moment at the crucial moment, the consequences would have been dire. Originally, Xiao Chen's mental state was not weak. However, the heart demon was too strong, not giving him any buffer time from the start. As long as Xiao Chen had a chance to catch his breath, given his mental state and strong mental energy, he would be able to recover his mental state in an instant. When the countless demons in front saw that Xiao Chen had woken up, they continuously created all sorts of illusions and terrifying illusory sounds, trying to pull Xiao Chen back into a state of massacre. Chapter 1265. However, it was clearly impossible for the same move to work on Xiao Chen twice. Gurgle. Gurgle. When the move failed, all the demons started moving at the same time. Then, they gathered together and turned into a mountain-sized demon. It looked as disgusting as one could imagine. However, what shocked Xiao Chen even more was yet to come. The mountain-sized demon transformed continuously. Finally, it turned into a black-clad man who looked exactly the same. This person's face was filled with evil intent, and he held a black saber in his hand. He gave Xiao Chen a familiar yet strange feeling. "Who are you?" The black-clad man smiled and said, "I am you, and you are me. However, your heart is usually very stable, never giving me a chance to appear." Xiao Chen suddenly startled awake. He understood that this was the other him formed by the desires and the various negative emotions in his heart. Everyone had good and evil sides. No one could avoid them. Naturally, Xiao Chen was no exception. This was somewhat problematic. With the support of the 7-peak grade demon fiend rocks, Xiao Chen did not know how strong his evil thoughts would be. If he died here, he would be completely erased. "Thank you for your arrogance, giving me a chance to appear. Go in peace. I will carry your desires and live on." The black-clad man's lips curled up in a sinister smile. Then, his figure flashed as he charged at Xiao Chen. The saber technique that the black-clad man attacked was Xiao Chen's specialty, flawless bright moon. However, this moon was a black, evil moon. It gathered evil thoughts and inspired fear. How fast? In the time it took for a spark to fly, Xiao Chen attacked at lightning speed. He also used flawless bright moon to clash. The two moons competed with each other. Two saber chi, one black and one white, clashed at the same time. In the end, Xiao Chen's saber chi instantly scattered. The black saber chi contained a berserk killing intent, knocking Xiao Chen back and causing him to vomit blood. "How can it be like this?" Xiao Chen asked, feeling doubtful. The black-clad man walked over step by step. He smiled and said, "I know everything you know. I have this endless massacre and evil thoughts to use. However, you can only defend your heart. How can you compare to me?" With a flash, the man in black did not give Xiao Chen a chance to overtake him. He began to suppress Xiao Chen. The various killing moves that Xiao Chen usually used were displayed in an even more brutal manner in the hands of the black-clothed man, and each move was much more powerful than the original. You can't use this move like that. With just this bit of skill, you still want to walk down the road of Emperor? How naive. In just 10 moves, Xiao Chen was already covered in cuts and bruises. On the other hand, the black-clothed man was orderly and skillful. Every time he lost, Xiao Chen would ruthlessly taunt him. Xiao Chen calmed down and thought of another move, momentary glory. Yes, it was momentary glory. He had personally comprehended this move, and he needed to experience it himself to be able to use it. As an evil will, the other party would never have thought of this. Saber lights flickered, and all sorts of mysterious phenomena coalesced into a scene of Xiao Chen standing proudly on the peak of a mountain and all the outstanding talents falling. The black-clothed man smiled and said, "This is what you understand as glory. However, in my heart, true glory is like this." After saying that, the black-clothed man also chopped down with momentary glory. The outline of the scene did not change. However, behind the black-clothed Xiao Chen in the scene was a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. White bones piled up everywhere. The two scenes clashed intensely. The two stretched out their hands at the same time and said softly, "Break?" Space shattered, and all the scenes intertwined, forming an intense clash. The two were evenly matched. It was the black-clothed man's turn to be startled. "What's going on?" "My glory used the corpses of the outstanding talents to form a sea of blood. How can his glory compare to mine?" A bright light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. His heart became even more resolute. He smiled and said, "Indeed, it is as I expected. You do not understand me at all. You do not understand my glory. You do not understand my hot-bloodedness. Similarly, you do not understand my sorrow." When Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, saw the killing qi in Xiao Chen's eyes slowly vanish, she revealed an expression of pleasant surprise. Although the demonic qi had not disappeared, Xiao Chen had already woken up. He withdrew the foot that was halfway into the deep abyss in the end. Suddenly, a beam of starlight rushed up from the foot of the mountain. Its speed was faster than the human eye could react to. In one moment, it was still at the foot of the mountain. In the next moment, it appeared before Xiao Chen. The afterimage behind Xiao Chen had yet to fade away. It gave the illusion of a bright beam of starlight stretching over, never stopping. The starlight gathered, and an old man with a goatee appeared before Ao Jiao. He wore clothes embroidered with stars. The goatee looked at Xiao Chen with shock in his eyes. He muttered, "What a powerful blue dragon king. Even when one foot is halfway into the deep abyss, he can still pull himself back. I did not waste a 9-star divine movement talisman in vain. Just so I can stimulate the killing intent in your heart and push you into the deep abyss." After saying that, the goatee started storing up power, preparing to attack Xiao Chen's main body and stimulate Xiao Chen's instinctive killing intent. Scram! Just at this moment, a beam of golden light flew out from Xiao Chen's finger. Ao Jiao stood on Little Yellow Feather, bathed in a golden flame, charging out like a goddess. The goatee old man was slightly stunned. When he saw that Ao Jiao was only a great perfection blue-robed emperor, he immediately revealed a cold smile. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. Even the great perfection blue-robed emperor dares to tell me to scram? Scatter! The goatee old man flipped his palm, and a purple star banner appeared. Then, he casually waved it at Little Yellow Feather like he was chasing away a fly. The surging starlight gathered and kicked up a small starlight hurricane. The starlight seemed to condense into a solid wind that howled. Everywhere it passed, space cracked. Ao Jiao did not panic. Her gaze turned grave, and Little Yellow Feather's body burned with light. Its aura suddenly soared, and it spat out a clump of flame. This clump of golden flame was extraordinary. One could vaguely see the vague shape of a sun in it, like a newborn solar star. Strictly speaking, the sun was also a star. In the Zodiac Hall, the Solar Astral Palace ranked first was also the Solar Astral Palace. The flame that Little Yellow Feather spat out was a secret technique of the Golden Crow race, the Solar Astral Flame. It was said that a peak adult golden crow could spit out a miniature sun when it opened its mouth, capable of destroying a continent. Although this clump of solar astral flame was far from the legendary scene, there were already some hints of it. The starlight from the purple star slowly melted under the heat of this solar astral flame, eventually assimilating into it. When the goatee old man saw this scene, he was stunned. The Golden Crow Holy Beast? The Golden Crow Holy Beast was born in the sun. From the moment it was born, it carried the might of the sun. It was known as the Lord of the Stars. Any starlight would pale in comparison to it. The Golden Crow was a holy beast that all those who cultivated astral energy dreamed of obtaining. It was also the bane of all those who cultivated astral energy. Wild joy appeared in the goatee old man's eyes. A young golden crow. The heavens are helping me. I used the heavenly astral divine movement talisman at the right time. Otherwise, this golden crow would not be mine. The goatee old man spun the astral banner. This time, he paid 120% of his attention, no longer as casual as before. In one strike, he used 80% of his primordial energy to drive the astral banner in his hand. With a loud bang, the solar astral flame shattered. When the flame shattered, A flaming meteor rain fell from the sky above the mountain, flickering in the sky. "Little yellow feather, I'll leave it to you." A determined look flashed in Ao Jiao's eyes. Then she pushed off Little Yellow Feather's back and soared into the air. Little Yellow Feather cried out twice as if telling Ao Jiao not to worry. Its figure shook, and its body suddenly split into countless flaming golden feathers. Thousands upon thousands of flaming feathers gathered on Ao Jiao's body, looking like a suit of battle armor made of golden thread, burning with a divine fiery light. Life sacrifice, the Golden Crow race's forbidden technique. What exactly is this little Golden Crow's background? The goatee old man's eyes turned doubtful. The Golden Crow could obtain the inheritance of its ancestors in its bloodline. It could learn by itself and comprehend all sorts of secret techniques. However, this life sacrifice art was a forbidden technique that only the Golden Crow race's king could execute. After obtaining the golden thread battle armor made of Little Yellow Feather's life sacrifice, Ao Jiao's aura became incredibly strong. Xiao Qin hovered in the sky. From a distance, she looked dazzling with golden light and misty flames. She looked holy and dignified, like the Valkyrie of ancient legends. Ao Jiao's eyes narrowed as she held her two sabers. Then, she sent out a beam of golden flaming light, taking the initiative to charge at the goatee old man. The might of a great sun surged out. The goatee old man discovered that the astral energy he used was completely suppressed. This was undoubtedly a fatal threat to him. He came from the Zodiac Hall. All his martial techniques and cultivation techniques were related to astral energy. Suppressing astral energy was equivalent to crippling half of his strength. Xiao Qin stabilized the situation for now. The life sacrifice had a time limit. Once the time was up, he would be able to deal with this insignificant great perfection blue-robed emperor in one move. Whoosh, whoosh. Golden light flickered continuously in the air. Ao Jiao's exquisite figure created beams of light in the air as she surrounded the goatee old man and attacked him relentlessly. This was a dazzling battle that dazzled everyone's eyes and overwhelmed them. Time ticked by, but Ao Jiao's might did not diminish. The goatee old man calmly brandished the purple star banner in his hand, forming an impenetrable defense. "I'll let you be arrogant for now. Let's see how long you can last." Although the goatee old man was in a sorry state, he did not panic at all. This was because he knew that once the time limit of the life sacrifice was up, Ao Jiao would immediately return to her original form. At that time, he could draw out the astral energy and kill this girl in one move. However, just at this moment, an intense killing chi surrounded the goatee. Before the goatee could react, he saw saber lights flickering with electricity appear around him. In the sky, on the ground, in all directions, boundless saber lights flickering with electricity formed a world of sabers. Saber domain. What's going on? For the first time, horror appeared in the goatee old man's eyes. Emperor Wu, who could comprehend a saber domain, had the ability to kill someone of a higher cultivation. This was extremely horrifying. Lan Xiaofeng. It must be Lan Xiaofeng coming over. Back then, the Life Reaper Azura was able to kill countless Emperor Wu. Even sovereign martial emperors feared him because he comprehended a saber domain. Chapter 1266. Senior Lan, I know my mistake. Please show mercy and give me a chance. As the goateed old man looked at the vast and boundless island of lightning, he immediately panicked. He was only a second heaven martial emperor, Emperor Wu. He had managed to fool Lan Xiaofeng by using a divine movement talisman. If the other party really wanted to fight, the goateed old man would not be a match for him at all. Furthermore, his astral energy was suppressed. Give you a chance? Did you give me a chance when you charged up the mountain? A cold snort resounded, and the Thunder Saber domain withdrew, compressing the entire space. The goateed old man, who was locked down in the saber domain, had nowhere to hide. Tens of thousands of electric saber lights pierced through him. At the same time, 5-colored starlight descended from the sky. Xiao Qin, who held the cycle banner and drove the 100 strands of primordial energy in his body, flew over. The saber lights seemed to recognize him, automatically opening a path for him. The starlight of massacre, despair, ruin, death, and grief merged on the banner tip. Pu Si. The saber lights pierced the goateed old man's heart of an emperor. When Shao Chun drove the cycle banner with 5 strands of primordial energy, he had been somewhat strained. Now, not only was it easy, but the starlight driven by the 100 strands of primordial energy was also several times mightier. The goateed old man vomited a mouthful of blood and looked at Shao Chun in shock. "It's your saber domain." "That's right. Unfortunately, you are already a dead man." Shao Chun expressionlessly put away the banner. With a thought, the thunder saber domain turned into 100 strands of electric light and returned to his forehead. Wounds covered the goateed old man's body, flickering with electric light. Saber intent lingered in the wounds, preventing Emperor Wu's golden body from healing them quickly. However, even if all the wounds were added together, they could not compare to the wound at the goateed old man's dantian. That was a black hole, and the old man's heart of an emperor had already vanished. Pu Si. 2 flaming golden saber lights crossed each other and instantly chopped off the goateed old man's head, killing him. The one who made the move was naturally Ao Jiao, who was wearing a golden armor. She looked like a god of war, and her body emitted endless pressure. Shao Chun felt somewhat confused. Since when had Ao Jiao become so strong? Just as he was about to say something, he discovered that the golden feathers on Ao Jiao's body were slowly falling off. A moment later, the feathers converged and burned into a ball of flame. When the flame dissipated, a pure white egg appeared in front of Shao Chun. Shao Chun recognized it at a glance. Wasn't this the golden crow egg that little yellow feather hatched from? What had happened while he was fighting the evil spirit? How did little yellow feather end up like this? Ao Jiao carefully put away the golden crow egg. She looked at Shao Chun and said, "Don't worry too much. Little yellow feather used the life of the golden crow race as a sacrifice. When the solar divine flame hatches, it will undergo another nirvanic rebirth." Shao Chun knew that it would not be that simple. After some thought, he asked, "How many years?" If little yellow feather cannot find the legendary solar divine flame, it will need 500 years before it can be reborn. The solar divine flame was a legend in the Kunlun realm. No one had ever seen it before. That was to say, Shao Chun was certain that little yellow feather would only appear after another 500 years. 500 years. Shao Chun's heart suddenly felt heavy. 500 years was a very long time. Little yellow feather had been sleeping in the Sky Dome realm for tens of thousands of years. It had only been a few years since it reappeared, yet it had to sleep for another 500 years. Shao Chun truly owed little yellow feather too much. Ao Jiao consoled him, "It's fine. Even without this experience, little yellow feather will undergo a nirvanic rebirth. This is a tribulation that the king of the golden crow race has to endure. It only sleeps. When it wakes up, it can still see us. Nothing has changed. Come, let's go down." "Right." Ao Jiao hugged the golden crow egg and returned to the immortal spirit ring. A murderous intent flashed in Shao Chun's eyes. He pushed off the ground and turned into a beam of purple electric light, rushing down the mountain at lightning speed. At the foot of the mountain, the number of Emperor Wu gathered had increased from the original 4 to 9. However, when they saw the cold expression on Lan Chaofeng's face, none of them dared to take a step forward. 2 people lay on the ground, trying to sneak up. In the end, Lan Chaofeng dealt a heavy blow to them, injuring their hearts of an emperor and causing them to fall to the ground, unable to get up. What's going on? Earlier, the demonic qi was overwhelming. Now, there is no demonic qi at all. The 5 beams of starlight earlier were clearly a martial technique of the astral palace. It is very likely that the elder of the Zodiac Hall used a killing move to severely injure the Blue Dragon King when he entered a state of demonic qi. That is to say, the Blue Dragon King is already dead? That is most likely the case. However, it is really hard to say now. Whether he is dead or not, we have to go up and confirm it. The elder of the astral palace must have left by now, leaving this troublesome place. The martial emperor elders from the divine dragon palaces of the 4 seas, the 5 poison sect, and the Heavenly Province Academy discussed in soft voices. Their expressions were very complicated. This was a rare major event. The attention-grabbing Blue Dragon King Xiao Chen actually entered a state of berserking qi deviation, taking one step into the demonic Tao. This was simply an opportunity bestowed to them by the heavens. Unfortunately, Lan Chaofeng blocked this place, suppressing everyone's desire and preventing them from using it. Lan Chaofeng's expression turned uncertain. Even now, he did not know what the situation at the summit was like. The natural laws there were in chaos. After an intense battle, mental energy would not be able to detect anything. However, the demonic qi was gone, and an astral palace martial technique appeared. All these signs pointed to an extremely bad situation for Xiao Chen. Whoosh! At this moment, a bolt of purple lightning shot down from the peak of the towering mountain. With a crisp sound, the white-clad Xiao Chen landed in front of Lan Chaofeng. Xiao Chen's long hair fluttered in the wind, looking very elegant. He did not look injured at all. Xiao Chen's eyes were as calm as still water, not showing any signs of entering a state of berserking qi deviation. Didn't you enter a state of berserking qi deviation? The old man from the Five Poisons sect asked in shock. The other Emperor Wu elders also showed shock on their faces. They could not accept this fact at all, feeling somewhat stupefied. How could this be? Not only did Xiao Chen not die, but he also did not enter a state of berserking qi deviation. Furthermore, he did not seem injured at all. Lan Chaofeng smiled and said, "Little fellow, you finally came out. This old man did not block so many clowns for you in vain. What else do you have to say? Blue Dragon King Xiao Chen is here all fine and dandy. Who was the one who wanted to slay the demon?" Xiao Chen thought for a while and guessed what was going on. He smiled and said, "Seniors, the demon that you want to slay, is it me?" The Five Poison sect elder who shouted the loudest smiled abashedly and said, "How could that be? We only saw the demonic qi rushing into the clouds here and worried that the Blue Dragon King was in danger, so we came to take a look." That's right. Earlier, the demonic qi rushing into the clouds covered the entire Heavenly Star Island. Could it be that we came to take a look? Little Yellow Feather fell back into a deep slumber, causing Xiao Chen's killing qi to linger. He said rudely to this group of Holy Land elders who harbored evil intentions, "Naturally, there is no harm in taking a look. Now that we have seen enough, why don't we scram?" "What did you say?" Hearing Xiao Chen's rudeness, the few Emperor Wu elders all raged. If Lan Chaofeng had told them to scram, it would have been fine. After all, Lan Chaofeng was terrifyingly strong. However, Xiao Chen was a great perfection blue-robed emperor. Unexpectedly, he dared to be so rude to them. No matter what, they could not accept this. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Am I not clear enough? When I call for you, scram immediately. This is my private cultivation ground. You are not welcome here." Lan Chaofeng, who was at the side, felt startled. Xiao Chen's killing qi was very dense. The sharpness hidden in the killing qi was as sharp as a saber. What exactly happened at the summit? However, it was fortunate that this killing qi was rather pure. There was no berserk, bloodthirsty, or any other attribute mixed in. Now, Xiao Chen had indeed recovered his clarity. I heard that after some people entered a state of berserk qi deviation and entered the deep abyss, they knew how to hide. They looked no different from ordinary people on the surface. However, in reality, their hearts had already changed, losing their original heart. Such demons are even more sinister and vicious. The black-clad old man from the Five Poisons sect smiled coldly as he spoke in an indifferent tone. The other Emperor Wu thought about it and understood. This was an elder of the Five Poisons sect. He could not stand Xiao Chen's tone and wanted to teach him a lesson, so he found a random excuse. The smile on Xiao Chen's face did not diminish. He said indifferently, "You are really full of nonsense. Did you not hear me telling you to scram? How many more times do you need me to repeat myself? How pig-headed." Right after Xiao Chen spoke, he withdrew his smile. Then, the electric dragon under his feet burst forth, and he arrived before the black-clad old man like he teleported. Without even thinking, Xiao Chen instantly executed the sharp spirit finger. The tip of Xiao Chen's finger shot out, and a clump of flickering electric light covered all the surrounding light. In the time it took for a spark to fly, before the others could understand what happened, there was a loud bang, and the black-clad old man went flying. A bowl-sized hole appeared in the black-clad old man's chest. Blood flowed endlessly. "All of you scram. Don't stay here and join in the fun," Lan Chaofeng said. Lan Chaofeng said. He feared that Xiao Chen would be tainted by killing Qi after clearing his heart demon. After flipping over, the 5 poison sect elder, who was preparing to fight with Xiao Chen, vomited a mouthful of blood when he heard Lan Chaofeng's words. As the black-clad old man looked at Xiao Chen, he said coldly, "Don't think that you can defeat Emperor Wu just because you comprehended the sharp spirit finger. Today, on account of Senior Lan, I will not lower myself to your level." Xiao Chen smiled coldly in his heart. He had not used his full power in this sharp spirit finger, and it could already injure this old man. To think that the other party dared to spout such nonsense. He was truly arrogant and ignorant. You are not convinced? I'll give you a chance 3 days from now. Let's have a fair fight at the Blue Dragon Plaza in Heaven Dragon City. We won't rest until one of us dies. Do you dare to accept? The black-clad old man, who was about to leave with Emperor Wu after saying those words, was stunned when he heard that. The black-clad old man turned around and smiled. "Senior Lan, does his words count?" "Xiao Chen," Lan Chaofeng said, trying to persuade Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen waved his hand and sent a voice projection, telling Lan Chaofeng not to worry and that he had his own plans. 3 days from now, Xiao Chen could use this battle to announce the news of the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment to the world. This would be a good start to the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. These people could not escape responsibility for Little Yellow Feather's misfortune. He had to leave one of them behind to pay the price, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Seeing Xiao Chen agree, the black-clad old man laughed maniacally. "You probably do not know how valuable your head is. Since you want to send yourself to death, I'll fulfill your wish. 3 days from now, I will come to collect your head." Chapter 1267. The martial emperors of the Heavenly Province Academy, the divine dragon palaces of the 4 seas, and the ancient noble clans all looked at Xiao Chen in disbelief. Xiao Chen had relied on his sudden attack and the sharp spirit finger to send the black-clad old man flying earlier. Furthermore, based on the might of Xiao Chen's sharp spirit finger, it was not very profound. If it were the complete version of the sharp spirit finger, the black-clad old man would not even be able to stand up. There was only one possibility. Xiao Chen had not practiced the sharp spirit finger to perfection, only reaching small perfection. Xiao Chen wanted to challenge Emperor Wu with his half-baked sharp spirit finger as a consummation blue-robed emperor? That was no different from a fool's dream. Ha! The Blue Dragon King truly lives up to his reputation as the Blue Dragon King. We will definitely come and watch 3 days from now. The Emperor Wu's left one after another, their loud laughter filled with disdain. After the other Emperor Wu's left, Lan Chaofeng's face immediately sank. "Little fellow, are you crazy?" Xiao Chen raised his head and asked, "Why do you say that?" Lan Chaofeng replied solemnly, "I do not deny that you can hold your own against Emperor Wu right now. However, that is just that. If you really want to fight to the death, given Emperor Wu's golden body and the strength of his primordial energy, you will definitely die if this drags on. The sharp spirit finger is indeed fearsome when used to deal a fatal blow. However, in a true battle to the death, the other party will not give you a chance to deal a fatal blow. The moment you use the sharp spirit finger will be the moment of your death." When Xiao Chen heard this stern reprimand, he did not feel any repulsion. He could still hear the concern in Lan Chaofeng's words. Smiling faintly, Xiao Chen said, "This junior would like to exchange pointers with senior." "Are you sure about exchanging pointers with me?" Lan Chaofeng asked. Xiao Chen nodded. "I'm sure." Lan Chaofeng thought of something. He smiled and said, "Very well, I'll give you a chance to prove yourself. Do your best. I will suppress my strength to that of a first heaven layer Emperor Wu and have a proper exchange with you. If you can defeat me, I will allow you to go up 3 days later." After saying that, Lan Xiaofeng extended his right finger and tapped his chest a few times, using a secret technique to suppress his cultivation. And from the looks of it, it was impossible for him to recover in a short period of time. This somewhat confused Xiao Qin. In his eyes, Lan Xiaofeng was now a genuine First Heaven Emperor Wu. If not for knowing Lan Xiaofeng's true strength, Xiao Qin would have fallen for the other party's tricks. When Lan Xiaofeng saw Xiao Qin's curiosity, he explained with a smile, "In the past, I had some small tricks as an assassin. Sometimes, I had to lower my strength before I could perfectly conceal myself. Once I execute this secret technique, I will have to wait at least half a day before I can recover my strength. So, you can exchange moves with me without worry." Xiao Qin smiled and said, "Senior seems to be very confident. Using only a First Heaven layer, you will not be able to block me." When Lan Xiaofeng heard that, he was stunned. Then, he laughed loudly and said, "You are worried about me? Worry about yourself." To put it bluntly, I feel that a First Heaven layer Emperor Wu is a little too much. Very well. In that case, sorry for the offense. Xiao Qin smiled faintly and performed a cupped fist salute. The instant he raised his head, he stretched out his hand and hacked down with his saber. In that instant, an electric light tore through the air. Xiao Qin drove all 100 strands of primordial energy in his body and gathered them on his saber. The pure white lunar shadow saber flickered with light as it casually chopped down. Everywhere it passed, black tears appeared in space. The strong primordial energy surged in Xiao Qin's body, driving the surrounding power of the world to form 100 roaming dragons dancing around wildly. This caused the world to change. Space twisted, and the different scenes in the surroundings spun quickly. Lan Xiaofeng goggled, not daring to believe the scene before him. He smiled helplessly and said, "Little fellow, you were so quiet. It turns out that you were hiding such a great trump card. You made this old man worry for so long. You nearly tricked me as well. However, this little bit of skill is not enough to shake me." Xiao Qin brandished the dagger in his hand, and strands of primordial energy leaped about. 100 formless roaming dragons appeared behind Lan Xiaofeng as well, causing space to twist and the surrounding scenery to change unpredictably. Ding! Lan Xiaofeng casually swung the dagger and blocked Xiao Qin's lightning-fast saber strike. The instant the weapons clashed, the world spun around and space twisted. When Emo Chen and the others rushed over, all they saw was a distorted scene. In that scene, Xiao Qin's and Lan Xiaofeng's figures were stretched infinitely, impossible to see clearly. After the group focused all their mental energy into their eyes, they finally managed to peer through the layers of distorted space and see a clear image. In the air, Xiao Qin actually used his flawless saber technique to fight evenly with Lan Xiaofeng in close combat. Lan Xiaofeng's two disciples, Lan Xiaobai and Lan Tianji, were stunned when they saw this. To think that Master does not hold an advantage in close combat. Master has always said that even sovereign martial emperors do not dare to get within 3 centimeters of him. This time he really met his match. Although the group was shocked, their earlier worries were already swept away. Right now, it was clear that Lan Xiaofeng and Xiao Qin were exchanging pointers and not a battle to the death. This meant that Xiao Qin had already walked out of it and cleared his heart demon. Whoosh! Suddenly, everyone felt an extremely strong might and pressure, forcing them back 100 meters uncontrollably. They felt as if a rock was pressing down on their chests. The two were originally evenly matched in the air. Suddenly, Lan Xiaofeng was forced out. Many treasured sabers flickering with electricity buzzed endlessly around Xiao Qin. With a thought, Xiao Qin could form a saber. Saber domain. These two words appeared in the minds of Emo Qin and the others at the same time. Xiao Qin comprehended a saber domain. In the Emperor Wu realm, experts who could comprehend a domain were rare. However, Xiao Qin, a consummation blue-robed emperor, actually comprehended his own saber domain. Sharp spirit finger. Xiao Qin, who had used the saber domain to create an opportunity, quickly executed his killing move. This time, he used the sharp spirit finger at full power, not holding back at all. 9 electric whirlpools gathered in Xiao Qin's chest. With a thought, they gathered at his fingertips. Boom! A terrifying explosion rang out, causing the entire space to shake violently. Everyone nearby felt an intense pain in their eardrums. Xiao Chen's timing was very ruthless. It happened to be the instant Lan Xiaofeng was caught off guard and sent flying by his Thunder Saber domain. Lan Xiaofeng had no time to dodge this finger strike, he could only take it head-on. Electric light burst out, and Lan Xiaofeng's clothes were blasted to shreds. His skin was charred all over, and his hair stood on end, flickering with lingering electric light and giving off black smoke. After the fallen Lan Xiaofeng stood up, he looked like a refugee fleeing for his life. He no longer had the air of an expert or senior. Master, are you all right? Lan Xiaobai and Lan Xiaofeng asked as they walked over to support Lan Xiaofeng, pinching their noses. Lan Xiaofeng angrily flung the two away. His face was already charred from the explosion, making it impossible to make out any expression. He snorted coldly and said, "You are really ruthless. If not for my Emperor Wu golden body already reaching the sixth heaven, you would have taken my old life." It could be seen that the skin on Lan Xiaofeng's body was rapidly growing back. Lan Xiaofeng waved his hand and looked coldly at Xiao Chen before turning to leave. After Lan Xiaofeng left, Lan Xiaofeng and Lan Xiaobai could no longer hold back their laughter. Xiao Chen landed and said somewhat embarrassedly, "Xiaobai, was I too ruthless?" Lan Xiaobai could not stop laughing. It's fine. This master of mine loves to brag. In the past, when he taught us, he always suppressed his cultivation to the same level as ours, beating us up miserably. This time, you have taken revenge for us." Xiao Chen felt embarrassed in his heart. He said, "However, Senior seems to be angry." Lan Xiaofeng guffawed and said, "How can I not be angry? You blew your own trumpet, and you even turned black. Don't say anything. Let me laugh for a while more. Ha." However, suddenly Lan Xiaofeng discovered that Xiao Chen was continuously signaling him with his eyes. Lan Xiaobai also recovered his serious appearance. A bad feeling spread in Lan Xiaofeng's heart. When he turned his head back, he happened to see Lan Xiaofeng, who had already changed his attire. He said awkwardly, "Master, I absolutely did not mean to laugh at you. Lan Xiaofeng interrupted him. "I understand. You just missed the way I taught you in the past. Starting tomorrow, I will undergo special training for a month." "Don't, Master," Lan Xiaofeng wailed. Lan Xiaofeng sized up Xiao Chen again, causing Xiao Chen to feel nervous for some reason. This time, he had really gone overboard. "Little fellow, you really comprehended a saber domain. Come with me," Lan Xiaofeng said with a straight face as he walked forward. Such a stance made Xiao Chen feel even more nervous. Along the way, Lan Xiaofeng did not say a word. This made Xiao Chen feel even more unfathomable. Just like that, after walking for about an hour, the two arrived at an even more desolate mountain peak. Xiao Chen knew that this was where Lan Xiaofeng usually cultivated. This old man liked peace and quiet. Lan Xiaofeng turned around and looked at Xiao Chen. Then he circled around Xiao Chen and said with a smile, "Brat, you are really good. Since this old man became famous, I have never embarrassed myself like this." Xiao Chen smiled awkwardly and said, I don't dare. Senior is too serious." Lan Xiaofeng said with a sullen expression, "You don't dare? What else do you not dare to do? Even if it is for the upcoming Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony, there is no need for you to work so hard and refine more than 3 peak-grade demon fiend rocks at the same time. Tell me, how many did you refine?" Lan Xiaofeng's stare made Xiao Chen feel somewhat guilty. He whispered, 7. 7. Lan Xiaofeng cried out hoarsely, his eyes wide open. "What should I say to you? Never mind. Perhaps I don't understand the pressure you are under. 7 peak-grade demon fiend rocks. No wonder you could comprehend your own domain." Although Lan Xiaofeng's words were stern, Xiao Chen could still sense the concern hidden in them. So, he did not dare to rebut. "Back then, I was like you, thinking that I could undergo 3 sovereign tribulations and reach prime in one go. In the end, I ended up in such a state." When Lan Xiaofeng recalled the past, he revealed a rare sadness in his eyes. "Undergoing 3 sovereign tribulations in a row? That works too?" Xiao Chen looked at Lan Xiaofeng with some surprise. Unexpectedly, this old man had such a past. Chapter 1268. Lan Xiaofeng explained, "Don't find it strange. The Yingzong you know underwent 3 sovereign tribulations in a row, gaining the strength to fight with primes. Back then, the Thunder King was the same. However, my baleful aura is too heavy, and I overestimated my strength." Xiao Chen said quickly, "Senior, don't worry. In the future, when this junior really becomes a martial emperor, I will definitely help you search for divine herbs that can extend your lifespan." Lan Xiaofeng smiled and said, "It's good that you have the intention. There is no need for you to worry about this. I know my own matters the best. I called you here for another reason." "What is it?" "Show me your saber domain." Although Xiao Chen did not know what the other party was planning, he still did as he was told. "Senior, please move back a little." Boom! With a thought, thousands of saber lights shot out of Xiao Chen's body. The sabers flickered with electricity, buzzing endlessly. Strong saber intents gathered together. Wherever the saber pointed, a sharp aura seemed to be able to pierce through space. If it were a weak person standing in front of Xiao Chen, this sharp aura would have pierced thousands of holes into them. Xiao Chen, who was in the saber domain, was like a sovereign king. Everywhere he looked frightening, giving off a trace of the grace of a saber sovereign. "That's it?" Lan Xiaofeng, who was in the air, smiled coldly and took a step forward. Kasu. The sabers in Xiao Chen's saber domain all shattered, turning into electricity and disappearing. This startled Xiao Chen. How can it be like this? It looked like the saber domain was about to crumble. The mental energy in Xiao Chen's sea of consciousness surged continuously, turning into many sabers that shot out from his body, maintaining the saber domain from crumbling. However, this was still not enough. Every time a saber appeared in Xiao Chen's body, it would immediately shatter. In the end, the speed at which the saber domain formed could not keep up with the speed at which it shattered. When the saber domain completely crumbled, Xiao Chen vomited a mouthful of blood and took 3 steps back, feeling dizzy. Suddenly, a fine drizzle fell from the sky. Lan Xiaofeng walked over step by step in the rain. The curtain of rain blurred Xiao Chen's vision. He could not see clearly whether it was a person or a saber that was walking over. He reached out his hand to wipe his face, but to his surprise, he discovered that his hand was covered in blood. Only now did he realize that his entire body was covered in cuts and bruises. Every drop of rain that fell from the sky contained a boundless saber intent. Every drop of water was a murderous saber. The dagger spun around Lan Xiaofeng's fingers, and the rain stopped. Coincidentally, Lan Xiaofeng walked over to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen was startled. "Whose saber domain is this?" A dagger was a short saber. Strictly speaking, a domain comprehended with a dagger could naturally be considered a saber domain. "You are not stupid. This is indeed my saber domain." "But why? You want to ask why I didn't use it when I fought you, right? Little fellow, your timing was so accurate. If I really tried to use it, I would have to fully open my saber domain, and you would die on the spot." Xiao Chen felt shocked. To think that a saber domain could be used like that. This was truly an eye-opener. Your saber domain cannot even be considered a basic saber domain. It is very rough and full of openings. Even if I did not comprehend a saber domain, I have hundreds of ways to break it for you. Xiao Chen suddenly startled awake. Why was Lan Xiaofeng looking for him? He quickly bowed and performed a cupped fist salute. "Senior, please guide me." Lan Xiaofeng smiled without saying anything. He did not rush to agree to Xiao Chen's request. Instead, he asked, "I can teach you, but you have to tell me what other trump cards you have." Xiao Chen smiled embarrassedly and said, "Honestly speaking, this junior still has an emperor-grade secret treasure. That 5-colored starlight that fell from the sky earlier was actually the peak strike of this junior's secret treasure." Lan Xiaofeng felt slightly stunned. Then, he scolded jokingly, "Brat, you indeed still have more trump cards. 100 strands of primordial energy, the initial Thunder Saber domain, and an Emperor-grade secret treasure. You tricked that old man from the 5 Poison sect. Ha! Suddenly, Lan Xiaofeng's laughter stopped. Then he changed the topic. However, it is fine if you tricked him. Why did you trick this old man as well? Lan Xiaofeng was temperamental, his emotions changing unpredictably. Xiaochen found him somewhat unfathomable, not daring to reply. Brat, you are really black-hearted. However, you still have some comprehension ability. I'll teach you a move or two then. Let me ask you first, what is a saber domain? If you do not answer well, I will not teach you, Lan Xiaofeng said. Xiaochen felt helpless in his heart. Back then, you were the one who said that I could do whatever I wanted. However, Xiaochen could only say this in his heart. Right now, he had to think of how to answer Senior Lan's question. What was a saber domain? Initially, when a bladesman comprehended saber intent, it was just a form of intent. One could feel it but not grasp it, unable to see it clearly. After it advanced to a saber soul, it became tangible, something that could be clearly seen in the sea of consciousness. However, after it advanced to a saber domain, it became formless again, even more ethereal. It was like it had become a hazy state. One could not see it, touch it, or feel it. However, one could sense its existence just by looking at it. With a thought, the saber domain would immediately form, and that aura would burst forth from one's body. However, what exactly was a saber domain? Xiaochen really could not say. After thinking for a long time, he still could not describe it. Lan Xiaofeng looked at the frowning Xiaochen and revealed a mocking smile, waiting for Xiaochen's answer. I don't know. After a moment of silence, Xiaochen answered honestly, unable to answer. Lan Xiaofeng appeared stunned. Then he smiled and said, You are really a brat. You are very honest. If you give a long speech now, thinking yourself infallible, I will definitely turn around and leave. What I want is for you to not know. Xiaochen felt somewhat stunned. That works too? Is that for real? Senior, don't lie to me. Lan Xiaofeng smiled and said, Why would I lie to you? Something like a saber domain is ethereal and formless. Even I cannot explain it clearly. If you can explain it so clearly and logically, I really don't know how to teach you. When Xiaochen heard that, he entered deep thought. Lan Xiaofeng's words made him feel enlightened. The Thunder Saber domain is not for you to play around with. You are like a hedgehog, wrapping yourself up in it. I'll first teach you how to go from power to subtlety. How much you can comprehend will depend on your own ability. Although Lan Xiaofeng said that, his gaze as he looked at Xiaochen clearly brimmed with anticipation. Perhaps he saw a shadow of himself in Xiaochen, and he didn't want this young man to end up like him. From force to subtlety? Xiaochen asked in confusion. Lan Xiaofeng nodded and said, That's right. Right now, your grasp of the Thunder Saber domain is still at the level of power. What is subtlety? Simply put, it is when others cannot see your saber but can clearly feel your saber domain. For example, my upper water saber domain. With a thought, the drizzle falls silently. Even though the saber light cannot be seen, the saber is everywhere. Xiaochen immediately understood. That is to say, my Thunder Saber domain has to hide the saber light in the lightning. That's right. That is the direction. However, it is not as simple as you say. What you need to do is to merge your entire power into space. It is not as simple as hiding the saber light in the lightning. Instead, you need to hide your power in this entire space. With a thought, lightning and electric light will come out. Saber intent filling the air is everywhere and can be used by you. Lightning and electric light came out. Saber intent filling the air was everywhere. Xiaochen felt like he was enlightened. His entire being became enlightened. Lan Xiaofeng had opened a door for him that he had never seen before. I'll show you the difference. Lan Xiaofeng stretched out a finger and tapped Xiaochen's forehead. Instantly, many scenes flickered, forming a coherent image that appeared in Xiaochen's mind. In the scene, Lan Xiaofeng hovered in the air. His long hair fluttered about and strong winds howled. Many short sabers with cold light floated beside him. Lan Xiaofeng's body exuded a boundless aura. His entire being seemed to merge with the saber domain around him. Everywhere he looked, Xiaochen's mind trembled. That aura was too sharp. How strong! This saber domain pushed Lan Xiaofeng's aura to its limits. Xiao Qin asked himself if he would concede defeat on the spot. However, he kept feeling that something was off. Although this aura was strong, it was not as shocking as the scene of Lan Xiaofeng walking over step by step in the rain. I understand now. Senior is directly telling me the difference between before and after entering refinement. Indeed, I have to make a comparison before I can see the difference. The scene continued to change. Lan Xiaofeng started fighting continuously. Xiao Qin watched carefully, not wanting to miss a single detail. Before entering refinement, Lan Xiaofeng had won every battle, chopping off his opponent's head. However, he always had wounds of various sizes on his body. That saber domain looked terrifyingly powerful, but his opponent would always have a chance to break it and injure Senior Lan. After entering refinement, Lan Xiaofeng won every battle. However, Senior Lan never got injured again. The saber intent filling the air was truly everywhere. Do you understand now? Lan Xiaofeng asked as he withdrew his hand. Xiao Qin nodded. I don't fully understand, but I understand what Senior is trying to say. You only have strength, but you can't completely grasp it. You will always be found by your opponent. Only by being omnipresent and pervasive can we strike fear into our opponent's hearts. That's right, saber domain, saber domain. The emphasis is not on the word saber, but on the word domain behind it. Inspiration flashed in Xiao Chen's mind. Senior, does that mean that in the future, cultivating the saber domain will transfer to the state of space? Lan Xiaofeng revealed a gratified smile in his eyes. Just a hint and you understand. However, this is not something you can touch on right now. The state of space is broad and profound. Minor Heavenly Emperor Wu can only scratch the surface of it. Greater Heavenly Emperor Wu can only gain some understanding of it. Only sovereign martial emperors can reach small perfection. The peak sovereign martial emperors of the Kunlun realm are all people with high attainments in the state of space. However, there is no need for you to think so much now. Just focus on comprehending from power to subtlety. Continue watching. I will demonstrate my state of water to you again. As Lan Xiaofeng taught Xiao Qin, Lan Xiaobai and Imo Chen did not remain idle, either. They were anxiously making arrangements for the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony in secret. The time was already set. All that was left was for Xiao Qin to decide, and he could announce it to the world. On the other side, the news of Xiao Qin starting a life-and-death battle with the 5 Poison Sect's Martial Emperor Elder 3 days later instantly spread throughout the entire Western Sea. After that, it quickly spread through the heavenly starry ocean and reached the Kunlun continent. Chapter 1269. In less than a day, all the upper echelon of the peak factions of the Kunlun realm received this news. In the circle of martial emperors, this piece of news caused a huge commotion. Almost every martial emperor who met would talk about this news at the same time. Emperor Wu had always been aloof. No matter how strong cultivators who had not advanced to martial emperor were, they were like ants in Emperor Wu's eyes. Such a situation had persisted for many years. However, now, a consummation blue-robed emperor was going to challenge someone who had been a martial emperor for many years. This was simply too shocking. If an ordinary person did this, everyone would just treat it as a joke and not care. However, this challenger was the Blue Dragon King, Xiao Qin, a youth who had created many miracles. Before he advanced to martial emperor, everyone in Emperor Wu's circle knew about him. The weight of this challenge was too great, so much so that Emperor Wu had to pay special attention to it. There was no other reason than the challenger's name. In a mountain manor in Heaven Dragon City, the few Emperor Wus who went to slay demons gathered together. Old Bai, your challenge this time kicked up a storm in our entire Emperor Wu circle. How confident are you? An old man from the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace asked. Right now, the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace had the greatest conflict with Xiao Qin. Naturally, they paid the most attention to this battle. As long as Xiao Qin died, the hearts of Heavenly Star Island's people would naturally die as well. The 5 Poison Sects Old Bai smiled and said, I do not dare to say that I am completely confident, but I have a 99% chance. I have already been a martial emperor for 500 years. As long as we can drag this out for 2 hours, he will not stand a chance at all. The cultivation techniques and martial techniques of my 5 poison sect will make him beg for death. However, that Xiao Chen's sharp spirit finger is rather horrifying. Old Bai, you should be careful, an old man from an ancient noble clan said calmly. A hint of fear flashed in Old Bai's eyes. Of course, but it's not a trump card anymore. His telepathic finger hasn't been trained to perfection. I'll be able to deal with him if I'm careful. Besides, it's not like I'm completely unprepared. What preparations? The others asked curiously. The power of the telepathic finger was boundlessly ferocious. Could it be that Elder Bai already had a way to deal with it? Old Bai smiled mysteriously. There is still one more day. You will know when the time comes. I can only say that a major character of the Kunlun continent's deity race sent a clone here last night and came into contact with me alone. Emperor Forsaken. The others gasped in surprise. Emperor Forsaken was a big shot second only to the Thunder King, yet he was personally participating in this duel. Elder Bai neither denied nor admitted it. He said coldly, in short, this brat will die after tomorrow. The resources exchanged for his head will definitely be enough for me to pass the second heavenly tribulation. Envious expressions flashed in the eyes of the other Emperor Wu's. Xiao Chen's head was really valuable. Normally, no one dared to touch him. However, this time, he was the one who challenged them. In a battle to the death, if he killed Xiao Chen, there would be no need to worry about the Thunder King's revenge. Xiao Chen only had himself to blame. The few Emperor Wu's people started to congratulate Xiao Chen in advance. After the Qing Emperor, Xiao Chen was a thorn in many people's sides. If Xiao Chen died, it would not be just the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace but the many holy masters of the heavenly starry ocean who would be grinning from ear to ear. Elder Bai's smile widened, his eyes filled with satisfaction. He was just waiting to kill Xiao Chen when the time came. At the summit of the desolate mountain, heavy clouds churned in the sky for a kilometer around Xiao Chen. Thunder rumbled in the clouds. Although one could hear it, one could not see it. All the light within 1,000 meters seemed to have gathered on a single person. That was a white figure. His figure did not look very majestic. His delicate face did not give off a very tyrannical feeling. However, when he stood at the summit, he was very eye-catching. Even without doing anything, he could instantly attract everyone's attention. Be it the tall mountain under one's feet, the clouds in the sky, or the rumbling thunder, everything would vanish. When you step into this 1,000-year area, everything will disappear. All you will see is this faintly discernible white figure, who has gathered all the light in this world. Xiao Chen watched all this with satisfaction. His lips curled up in a satisfied smile. After 3 days of Lan Qiaofeng's guidance, Xiao Chen finally understood what going from momentum to subtlety was. Simply put, going from momentum to subtlety was hiding the originally vast aura in all the unknown details of the entire space. Unfortunately, 3 days was too short. Xiao Chen could not comprehend much and could not achieve Lan Qiaofeng's silent drizzle. Silent and in harmony with the sky, there were no openings, no weakness to exploit. If Xiao Chen improved further, he could even hide the thunder and make the heavy clouds vanish. With a thought, the area within 1 kilometer became his domain. Lightning moved as Xiao Chen willed. The saber intent filling the air was everywhere. However, this was fine. Xiao Chen was already very satisfied with his improvement in 3 days. Suddenly, Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes, and a murderous intent surged out. He moved 1 kilometer in 1 step and swung his saber. He discovered that with this step, the thunderclouds in the sky silently moved 1 kilometer. However, it was still centered around Xiao Chen. It was like nothing had changed. The only thing that changed was the hidden saber intent. When Xiao Chen swung his saber, all the rocks, withered grass, and tree branches within 1 kilometer burst out with a startling saber intent. The saber intent filling the air was everywhere, making one feel that there was nowhere to hide within 1 kilometer. It was like everything was his enemy, the entire world rejecting him. All this was because Xiao Chen drew his saber. By the time Xiaochen sheathed his saber, the saber intent filling the air instantly vanished, turning into nothing. The earlier scene was like an illusion, never having happened. Not bad. You have already reached the initial step of going from power to subtlety. The area within 1 kilometer is your world. No matter what kind of domain, be it the saber domain, the sword domain, the water domain, or the fire domain, the focus is on the last domain. Xiaochen scattered his saber domain, and the thunderclouds vanished. Then, he said humbly, "It is still not enough. Compared to Senior, I am far from it." Lan Xiaofeng smiled and said, "At least you are aware of your limitations. However, I have nothing else to teach you. You have already grasped the basics. You just need to slowly comprehend it." "Senior, I have a question." "Speak." Lan Xiaofeng said straightforwardly. After some thought, Xiaochen said, "I want to know how to fight with an opponent of the same domain and find their weakness. For example, how should I break Senior's superior water saber domain?" When Lan Xiaofeng heard that, he laughed loudly. "What a brat! You are really bold, daring to ask anything. Have you heard of the saying, teaching the disciple to starve to death? Right now, you are not trying to starve me to death. You are clearly trying to force me to death." Xiaochen smiled and did not say anything. Now, he more or less understood Lan Xiaofeng's temper. This old man had a strange temper, but he was definitely not the kind of person who haggled over minor matters. Indeed, after Lan Xiaofeng finished laughing, he said, "Don't overthink. There is no trick to this. You feel that my superior water saber domain is not easy to deal with, but I also feel that your thunder saber domain is not easy to deal with. The one who goes further and comprehends it more thoroughly will have the advantage in battle. Are you satisfied with my answer?" Xiaochen thought about it for a while before commenting, "Not really. However, one day I will find the weakness of your domain. There is no such thing as nothing without a weakness." Lan Xiaofeng glared at Xiaochen and said, "You really dare to brag. In the entire Kunlun realm, even the Prime, the Thunder King, would not dare to say something like that." Xiaochen smiled faintly and did not refute Lan Xiaofeng's words. The reason he said this was related to his flawless saber Dao. The flawless Dao never believed that there was anything truly perfect and flawless in the world. If Xiaochen did not even have this bit of skepticism, then his Dao would instantly crumble. His perseverance as a bladesman would crumble, and he would lose his heart. The sound of wind came from the foot of the mountain. That was the sound of someone rushing over at an extremely fast speed, giving off sonic booms. Xiaochen and Lan Xiaofeng did not turn their heads back. They each sensed for a while and knew that Lan Xiaobai had arrived. "Xiaobai is here. Your battle with that old man should be starting soon. The 5 Poison sect is famous for its poison attacks. However, at Emperor Wu's level, he has cultivated the golden body. There are very few poisons in the world that can threaten Emperor Wu. However, you do not have the golden body yet. So, you have to end this battle quickly. It would be best if you finish off your opponent within 1 hour." Lan Xiaofeng was still very concerned about Xiaochen. He gave Xiaochen a detailed explanation of the upcoming battle and some things that he needed to take note of. As long as you end the battle within 1 hour, even if you are poisoned, it will not affect the battle. Xiaochen memorized everything. Then, he performed a cupped fist salute and said, "Many thanks, Senior." Lan Xiaofeng waved his hand, and his figure slowly vanished. "I will not see Xiaobai. This fellow is very crafty now. Previously, he mocked me even more than Tianqi did." Right after Lan Xiaofeng left, Lan Xiaobai landed with the wind. He asked doubtfully, "Where's Master? I seem to have seen him earlier." Xiaochen smiled and said, "I have something to do, so I left first. Have you chosen the time?" "I have. It is on the 28th of this month." Xiaochen calculated. Today was the 13th. That was to say, the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony would officially start half a month later. For the re-establishment ceremony, I referenced the re-establishment ceremonies of some ancient sections. Then, I made some changes based on the situation in Heaven Dragon City. As I said previously, the main event is to pay respects to the ancestors. Lan Xiaobai continued. When Heaven Dragon City was first constructed, Mo Qin used the bodies of those Dragon's Gate's war venerates to build a blue dragon tomb in the north of the city. That is where we will pay respects to the ancestors. Xiao Qin nodded, having no objections. Even after these Dragon's Gate's war venerates died and turned into puppets, they still guarded the Dragon's Gate's treasure trove until they died. Xiao Qin continued to guard the Dragon's Gate's treasure trove, not resting until death. He, Xiao Qin, did 3 kowtows and 9 kowtows. Perhaps not all of these ancestors were of the Dragon's Gate's Xiao clan's direct line of descent. However, they were loyal and could not be erased. Come with me to meet that old man from the 5 Poison sect. We have to announce the re-establishment of the Dragon's Gate to the world. Chapter 1270. Xiao Qin showed a calm expression as he spoke casually. There was no nervousness in his tone at all. No one could tell that Xiao Qin was a consummation blue-robed emperor challenging a bona fide Emperor Wu. It was like the person he wanted to kill was just a nobody, a dancing clown. Lan Xiaobai sighed in his heart. News of this battle had spread like wildfire, startling the entire heavenly starry ocean. However, the main character of this matter was actually this calm. Xiao Qin wondered what the 5 Poison sect's senior Bai would think when he learned that Xiao Qin wanted to sacrifice an emperor to his saber. The location of the decisive battle was set at the Blue Dragon Plaza. This was the only place in the entire Heaven Dragon City that had a dueling ground for Emperor Wu. As long as there was space for people to stand near the plaza, it was already occupied. Looking down from the sky, the place was densely packed with people, looking like ants. The Emperor-level dueling ground with formations was empty, no one had gone up yet. Senior Bai was surrounded by a group of Emperor Wu's old friends. He was not in a rush to go up. Due to his status, if Xiao Qin did not come, he absolutely would not go up first. He would just stand there and wait like a fool. Whoosh! Suddenly, an intense commotion rang out in the plaza, shaking the entire place. Old Bai and the others shifted their gazes and looked at the entrance. Indeed, it was Xiao Qin, accompanied by Lan Xiaobai, walking in slowly. Senior Bai, we will congratulate you in killing the Blue Dragon King with your own hands. Use this head to show the might of our heavenly starry ocean's Emperor Wu. That's right. For the past few centuries, us old fellows have rarely made a move in public. Senior Bai, don't let us down. Senior Bai smiled sinisterly. Don't worry. He will definitely die today. No one will be able to save him. Senior Bai tore space and landed on the arena. Then, he looked at the strolling Xiao Qin and shouted coldly, Blue Dragon King, come up and receive your death. Elder Bai of the 5 Poison sect shouted coldly, causing the clamor in the plaza to die down. Xiao Qin looked up and paused for a second. He ignored the conversation with Lan Xiaobai and walked toward the arena unhurriedly. Old Bai was stunned, and his eyes burned with anger. Xiao Qin had actually ignored him. Blue Dragon King, come and receive your death. Master Bai shouted again. This time, he used the power of his heaven rank law. His voice was so loud that the entire Blue Dragon Square began to shake. The towering stone pillars and statues began to sway with this roar. Some of the weaker cultivators even felt their chi and blood surging, unable to hold back their words. There were even some who couldn't withstand the shout and directly coughed up blood. Emperor-level powerhouses are indeed unfathomable. If their strength were any lower, their voices would be enough to kill. This is really horrifying. I heard that this 5 Poison sects by Feng is Emperor Wu of the first heaven of still water. It has been several hundred years since Emperor Wu made a move in the heavenly starry ocean. This time, Xiao Qin is probably done for. Discussions broke out everywhere in the plaza. The 5 Poison sects by Feng's roar successfully showed everyone Emperor Wu's unfathomable strength. However, Xiao Qin remained indifferent. He raised his head and glanced at Bai Feng before continuing to walk forward unhurriedly. The tense atmosphere immediately turned somewhat strange. One was furious, and the other was unhurried, completely ignoring the other party's challenge. Interesting. This Blue Dragon King is actually ignoring him. This is probably the first time someone has given the bona fide Emperor Wu the cold shoulder. What exactly is this Blue Dragon King planning? I heard that this time, the Blue Dragon King's head can be exchanged for a rank 8 sect. Isn't the 5 poison sects elder by a little too excited? If it were me before Emperor Wu, this roar would scare me out of my wits. To think that Xiaoqun did not react at all. As Emperor Wu, Bai Feng heard all these chatter very clearly. Every word they said made him feel extremely humiliated. As a martial emperor, when had he ever been ignored like this? Blue Dragon King, come and receive your death. Rage burned in Bai Feng's heart. This time, he roared, infusing his primordial energy into his voice. He was going all out. There was a thunderous, ear-splitting sound. The stone on the stone pillars and statues in the plaza all fell off. Cracks appeared on the ground. Several people's eardrums ruptured on the spot, causing intense pain. With such might from the shockwaves, one could easily imagine how much pressure Xiaoqun, who bore the brunt of it, endured. However, even so, Xiaoqun remained calm and collected. He did not get angry at all, nor did he show any grave expression. After glancing at Elder Bai, Xiaoqun turned his head back and said goodbye to Lan Xiaobai. Then he headed for the arena alone, unhurriedly. Spatial formations from the Dragon's Gate's secret cannon covered the ground of the arena in the Blue Dragon Plaza, completely changing the spatial laws there. It was somewhat similar to the arena in the Four Seas Hero Gathering in Bright Moon City. However, it was of a higher level, able to endure a startling battle on the level of Emperor Wu. Up in the arena, Bai Feng's rage had already reached an unbearable level when Xiaoqun ignored his challenge 3 times. Bai Feng only had one thought in his mind. The instant Xiaoqun stepped into the arena, he would deal a fatal blow to show Xiaoqun the price of ignoring him. No one had ever dared to ignore him like this before. Xiaoqun walked over step by step and finally climbed onto the arena. After performing a cupped fist salute, he looked at Bai Feng. In his heart, Bai Feng was already a dead man. Let's see how confident you are. However, you ignored me again and again. Bai Feng did not even bother exchanging any pleasantries with Xiaoqun. After Xiaoqun finished bowing, he roared ferociously and charged over. Venomous Dragon Claw. Bai Feng's figure flashed, and he turned into a venomous dragon. Black clouds filled the sky, immediately covering the sun. Then he swung his claw. It was like a huge, ancient, evil dragon swung its claw down from the clouds. The huge dragon claw nearly covered half the arena. The dragon claw was pitch black. Not only was it horrifying, but it also contained poison. The moment this move was executed, it immediately incited startled cries. He truly lived up to his reputation as Emperor Wu. An inferior-grade profound martial technique did not require any time to store up power. It could be executed as one wished, displaying a perfect and flawless state. Many people in the Blue Dragon Plaza knew an inferior-grade profound martial technique similar to the venomous dragon claw. However, no one could execute it as easily as Bai Feng did and maintain a perfect state. Bai Feng perfectly merged the speed of his execution and the mysteries of his martial technique. However, the expressions of the cultivators who came with Bai Feng changed slightly. They did not show much joy. This is not good. This Bai Feng lost his rationality due to his rage. Didn't he say that he would drag this out? Indeed. Clashing head-on like this is exactly what Xiaoqun wants. He has never suffered when clashing head-on with the sharp spirit finger. That's not right. Bai Feng is Emperor Wu after all. His mental state will not fall into disorder so easily. He must be doing this on purpose. Remember that night, when he said that Emperor Forsaken's will clone came into contact with him. An old man from the Southern Sea Divine Dragon Palace suddenly recalled this matter. The expressions of Emperor Wu immediately changed. He smiled and said, "The older the ginger, the spicier." As Xiaoqun looked at Bai Feng, who turned into a venomous dragon and tore space with one claw, his eyes flickered as he pondered. Emperor Wu's mental state cannot be broken so easily. This fellow attacked in rage. He might be purposely giving me an opportunity to make a move. I might as well beat him at his own game and see how he deals with it. Feeling confident, Xiao Chen stepped forward and gathered 4 electric whirlpools at his chest. Using half of his energy, Xiao Chen executed the Sharp Spirit Finger. The Sharp Spirit Finger was the strongest secret technique in the heavenly starry ocean. The moment it was executed, it shattered the dragon claw without losing any momentum. The lightning-quick finger continued forward, aiming for the vital point of Baifeng's heart of an emperor. Ding. However, to Xiao Chen's surprise, the indestructible, unbreakable Sharp Spirit Finger actually got blocked. The rebound of the force knocked Xiao Chen back. Caught off guard, he vomited a mouthful of blood. Baifeng laughed loudly. "Trying to play with me? You are still too inexperienced. This is just a small trick. I sold you an opening, and you actually took it for real." Only now did Xiao Chen clearly see that the other party's heart of an emperor had a breastplate covered in divine markings stuck to the other party's heart of an emperor. This heart was not the heart of a heart but the heart of an emperor. The divine markings on the breastplate were extremely familiar to Xiao Chen. He raised his eyebrows and said softly, "This is the deity race's secret treasure, the breastplate. Only the deity race's Emperor Wu has it." Baifeng laughed loudly and said, "It is too late for you to know now. The Sharp Spirit Finger is useless against me. Let's see what other trump cards you have to fight with me. Blue Dragon King, it would be impolite for me to refuse your head. I will accept it." How despicable! To deal with a consummation blue-robed emperor, the great Emperor Wu actually sought out the deity race to borrow the heavenly heart mirror. This was truly flabbergasting. If Xiao Chen were fighting with someone of the same cultivation, using a secret treasure was understandable. However, when facing a consummation blue-robed emperor, doing so was too degrading. Everyone in the plaza felt nervous for Xiao Chen. What was he going to do now? Although Baifeng's actions were shameless, he did not break the rules. There had never been any rules in a battle to the death. Xiao Chen wiped off the blood at the corner of his lips and glanced indifferently at Baifeng. "Who told you that my Sharp Spirit Finger only has this much might?" "What?" Without giving Baifeng any time to feel shocked, 9 electric whirlpools flickered at Xiao Chen's chest. Light flashed, and the 9 electric whirlpools gathered at Xiao Chen's fingertip at the same time. The sky immediately turned dark, so dark that one could not see their own fingers. In the entire Blue Dragon Plaza, only the electric light at Xiao Chen's fingertip flickered. This time, Xiao Chen used the Sharp Spirit Finger at full power, breaking through 3 of Baifeng's defenses before landing on the deity race's heavenly heart mirror. Everyone heard it clearly. The deity race Emperor Wu's personal heavenly heart mirrors suddenly shattered. The divine patterns scattered and turned into beams of 7-colored spiritual light scattering like meteors in the dark night. How can it be like this? How can his Sharp Spirit Finger be so strong? Such a scene startled Emperor Wu, who accompanied Baifeng, and they all stood up at the same time. Xiao Chen frowned slightly. Even with the Sharp Spirit Finger at full power, it only managed to shatter the heavenly heart mirror. This was not the result that Xiao Chen wanted. It was rare for Baifeng to lower his guard and think that victory was assured, giving Xiao Chen such a great opportunity. It was not worth it to settle things like this. Chapter 1271. The deity race's heart-protecting mirror was indeed quite famous. The most important thing should be those ancient divine scripts. Without the divine scripts, the heavenly heart mirror's defense would not be so ridiculously strong. However, now was not the time to consider this. The most important thing was to maximize the results of this battle. Whoosh! Xiao Chen shattered the heavenly heart mirror with one finger. Then, he drew his lunar shadow saber at the same time. A saber light shot out like a waterfall, chopping towards Baifeng's head. Given the other party's golden Emperor Wu body, chopping off Baifeng's head would not allow him to survive. If Xiao Chen could do that, it would not be a loss to waste the Sharp Spirit Finger at full power. Baifeng was already frightened out of his wits by Xiao Chen's Sharp Spirit Finger at full power. When he saw Xiao Chen's waterfall-like saber strike, he was frightened out of his wits and quickly moved back. However, he had already comprehended a saber domain. Even if he did not bring out his saber domain, he would not be able to escape. Even without using his saber domain, even a casual saber strike of Xiao Chen's contained great might and extraordinary power. Xiao Chen's aura and speed both improved to varying degrees, far beyond what a regular bladesman could compare to. Blood spurted out. The saber light moved astonishingly fast, chopping off half of Baifeng's neck. However, it did not manage to chop off his entire head. To Baifeng, who possessed the first Heaven Emperor Wu body, this minor injury was not fatal. Baifeng drove his primordial energy and quickly eliminated the remnant saber intent in his wound, allowing his flesh to heal quickly. One finger, one saber. Xiao Chen forced Baifeng back. There was a distance of 10,000 meters. 10,000 meters was 5 kilometers. However, to Emperor Wu, this distance was equivalent to several hundred meters for regular cultivators, not particularly far. However, this was not the important point. The important point was that Xiao Chen, a consummation blue-robed emperor, managed to force back the bona fide Emperor Wu Baifeng. In this battle with a martial emperor, the one who held the overwhelming advantage was not Baifeng but the Blue Dragon King Xiao Chen, a genius who was only a consummation blue-robed emperor. A thunderous commotion broke out at the scene. Tens of thousands of people stood up to witness this unbelievable miracle. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and revealed a disappointed expression. His saber was not fast enough. Baifeng held the wound on his neck. His complexion was pale as he said weakly, "Blue Dragon King, I admit defeat in this match. Can you let me live?" Xiao Chen saw the flicker in the other party's eyes. He knew that the other party was stalling for time and not sincerely admitting defeat. He still harbored ulterior motives and wanted to kill him. The other party was stalling for time, which was exactly what he wanted. He unleashed the telepathic finger at full power. This drained his mental energy, primordial energy, heavenly laws, and vital qi. Baifeng fancied himself clever and wanted to drag things out until his injuries recovered. Xiao Chen was happy to play along with him. "Give you a chance? Why didn't you give me a chance? That day, when I went berserk, you shouted about slaying the devil. Did you ever think about how I felt?" Xiao Chen mercilessly rejected the other party's request. Then he looked coldly at the other party, searching for an opportunity to kill him in one move. "Damn it! If you had not tricked me, causing me to misjudge the might of your telepathic finger, how could you be so arrogant now?" Xiao Chen retorted calmly, "Then it is my fault? Your words are really shameless. If you are really that capable, why did you go to the deity race to borrow the heavenly heart mirror?" Baifeng smiled and retorted, "Do you really think that I borrowed the heavenly heart mirror? Ha! Xiao Chen, even if you kill me today, only death awaits you in the future. You have no idea how many people want to kill you and how strong they are. Your future is dark. Furthermore," Baifeng paused, and a murderous intent surged out of his eyes again. He lowered his right hand, which was covering his wound, and revealed his perfectly intact neck. His injuries had already recovered completely. Furthermore, it is still hard to say who will be the victor. Baifeng laughed loudly. Then, he turned into a venomous dragon and charged over again. This time, Baifeng tore space, wanting to charge over and catch Xiao Chen off guard. However, when Baifeng arrived within 1 kilometer of Xiao Chen, he suddenly felt a formless force forcing him out of that space. It was like the world that Xiao Chen was in did not welcome him at all. When he reappeared, he even felt somewhat confused. Another saber light like a waterfall flew over. Everywhere the saber light passed, it was like a waterfall was dancing in the air, shocking everyone. This time Baifeng could not dodge. The saber light cut his neck again, and blood spurted out like a fountain. Baifeng landed on the ground and staggered. He did his best to cover his wound with both hands, but blood still flowed out continuously from his fingertips. No matter what he did, he could not stop it. Saber, saber, saber. Baifeng found it incredibly difficult to say a single word. He could not say the word domain, no matter what. It was indeed a saber domain. However, Xiao Chen did not activate it. He only used the aura of the saber domain to make Baifeng appear within 1 kilometer of him. This was not the time to reveal the trump card of the saber domain yet. The first Heaven Emperor Wu had not grasped the state of space yet. He had only scratched the surface and could tear space and teleport short distances. In terms of cultivating the saber domain, when facing Xiaoqin, who had already advanced from aura to subtlety, Bai Feng charging over was no different from sending himself to death. Pu Si. A saber light exploded out of Bai Feng's neck, and his head flew off. Only a headless body remained, falling on the dueling ground and kicking up a cloud of dust. The thoughts of the head flying in the air had not been completely severed yet. Scenes flickered continuously in his eyes. The still calm Xiaoqin, the cultivators covering their mouths in disbelief, and the horrified expression on Emperor Wu's face, who had come with Bai Feng, were all captured in Xiaoqian's eyes. However, Bai Feng no longer had the ability to think. After his head fell to the ground and rolled around, he closed his eyes. If he was given another chance, he would definitely scram the moment Xiaoqin told him to scram for 3,000 taels of silver. He would not say another word. However, there were no ifs in the world, and there was no medicine for regret. From the moment Bai Feng prepared to eliminate Xiaoqin, his fate was already sealed. The blood on the tip of the saber had yet to dry, dripping to the ground. Xiaoqin stared at the blood on the saber and touched it. After thinking for a while, he said softly, "Aside from the stronger energy contained in Emperor Wu's blood, there is actually no difference." Strictly speaking, this was the first Emperor Wu that Xiaoqin had killed head-on. However, Xiaoqin was different from the cultivators in the spectator stands, who felt like they were in a dream, finding it inconceivable. Xiaoqian's heart was as cold as water. He did not feel anything at all. This was because Xiaoqin had never treated this Bai Feng as an equal. The stronger Xiaoqin was, the higher his horizons were, and the further he was from this world. After wiping off the blood on the saber, Xiaoqin sat cross-legged at the side and calmly absorbed Bai Feng's life essence. Only now did the cultivators who felt like they were in a dream confirm that what they saw was not an illusion. Xiaoqin had truly killed an Emperor Wu, creating a miracle that no one had done in the past few centuries. The few Emperor Wus who had come with Bai Feng remained silent for a long time before sighing. In the past, there were some people who were said to be unrivaled as long as Emperor Wu did not show up. Even Emperor Wu was not a match for him. I really don't know how to describe him. After Emperor Wu, the Blue Dragon King is unquestionably the strongest. It will be even harder to kill him in the future. This head will not be easy to obtain. Just as everyone was still immersed in the aftermath of Xiaoqin killing Bai Feng, Xiaoqin, who had finished absorbing the life essence, suddenly opened his eyes and announced an even more shocking piece of news. Today, Xiaoqin, as the descendant of the Qing Emperor, announces that the Dragon's Gate will be re-established on the 28th of this month. We welcome all the heroes of the world to attend the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. Re-establishing the Dragon's Gate? The moment Xiaoqin said this, all the clamor came to a stop. The few Emperor Wus from the divine dragon palaces of the Four Seas, the Heavenly Province Academy, and the ancient noble clans were stunned at first. Then, they became agitated and enraged. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A few figures flashed and appeared in the arena. Then, they looked at Xiaoqin with murderous intent. Blue Dragon King, are you muddle-headed? Do you know what you just said? Re-establishing the Dragon's Gate? Who gave you such courage? You are just a consummation blue-robed emperor, and you think you are worthy of re-establishing the Dragon's Gate? The seated Xiaoqin did not get angry or shocked. He sheathed his lunar shadow saber and slowly stood up. Why can't I re-establish the Dragon's Gate? I have the Blue Dragon Medallion, and I have the Shao clan's bloodline. I am the legitimate Blue Dragon King. Isn't it logical for me to re-establish the Dragon's Gate? You make it sound so easy. What do you mean by logical? You are going against the heavens. The Dragon's Gate has already been destroyed for 10,000 years. It should not have appeared in history. Could it be that you want to be the second Qing Emperor? The Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's Emperor Wu, who had the most direct connection to the Heaven Dragon City, roared uncontrollably. His killing chi became terrifyingly dense. The Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's reputation in the Western Sea had already been surpassed by the Heaven Dragon City. If the Dragon's Gate was re-established, the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace would definitely become a second-rate faction. No matter what, they could not let Shaoqin re-establish the Dragon's Gate. The old men of the other Holy Lands were worried that Shaoqin would become the second Qing Emperor. Back then, the Qing Emperor was extremely tyrannical, suppressing the many factions of the heavenly starry ocean to the point where they could not even raise their heads. How could they let that kind of scene repeat itself? They absolutely could not let the Dragon's Gate be re-established. The words, Dragon's Gate, were taboo to all the factions. Some of these factions even participated in the encirclement and suppression of the Dragon's Gate 10,000 years ago. They had a grudge against the destruction of the Dragon's Gate. Shaoqin looked at these people one by one. Even when facing these 7 Emperor Wu's questioning and pressure from their auras, his heart did not fluctuate, remaining as calm as still water. Take back what you said. It is too late to change your mind now. That's right. Quickly take back what you said. Otherwise, don't blame us for shedding all pretense of cordiality. Brat, don't go overboard. Some tacit understanding is an agreement between the major characters. However, once you cross the line, those agreements will no longer be valid. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you killed by phone. Remember, you have not advanced to Martial Emperor yet. The atmosphere was tense, ready to devolve into a chaotic battle at any moment. Several cultivators in the Blue Dragon Plaza quietly retreated, wanting to distance themselves from the impending storm. Chapter 1272. Today's matter was simply too much of a test of one's heart's endurance. First, Shaoqin dreamily killed one Emperor Wu. Following that, he announced a piece of shocking news that could shake the entire Kunlun realm. Shaoqin said indifferently, "How can I take back what I said? Are the few of you planning to work together to kill me? However, even if you kill me, I will not take back what I said." Shaoqin's white robes fluttered as he held his saber. His clear eyes were as bright as stars and gems. As he stood on the arena, he withstood the auras of 7 Emperor Wus. However, he did not seem flustered at all. Shaoqin's elegant demeanor made several people who had already left the plaza unwilling to shift their gazes away. A fervent light appeared in someone's eyes as he muttered to himself, "If I can have even a tenth of the Blue Dragon King's demeanor in this life, it will be worth it." Calm, persistent, calm, and tyrannical. If not for the mental barrier of advancing to Martial Emperor in 5 years, the Blue Dragon King's life would be perfect. Even if he fails to advance to Martial Emperor, the demeanor of the Blue Dragon King cannot be erased. I have never seen a young outstanding talent that can face 7 Emperor Wu so calmly. The appearance of a king made several people reluctant to leave. As they looked at Shaoqin, their gazes filled with worship. Don't. Footsteps resounded. It was Lan Xiaobai and the others. They arrived behind Shaoqin at the same time. At the crucial moment, they chose to stand behind him. Even though they were not strong enough now, their intentions were clear. "Are you going to resist to the end?" The red-clad old man from the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace said in a low, threatening voice. Shaoqin retorted indifferently, "What do you mean by resisting? I am purely trying to revive the sect of my ancestors. As a man of the Shao clan, everything I do is normal. Seniors, there is no need to misunderstand. The Blue Dragon King re-established the Dragon's Gate not to rule the world. He is just fulfilling his responsibility to his ancestors." Lan Xiaobai tried to ease the atmosphere, so he explained. "Is it your place to speak?" The red-clad old man raged in his heart, but he could not find an outlet to vent his anger. When he saw Lan Xiaobai speak, he did not bother to distinguish right from wrong, so he clawed at Lan Xiaobai. The berserk dragon roared furiously. His clothes trembled violently, bringing with it a heaven-shaking aura. His claw slashed out, as if a true dragon had stretched out its dragon claw from the void. It was extremely terrifying. Shio! A gentle breeze blew in the air. The red-clad old man had just taken a step when he discovered a scabbard pressed against his throat. The person who had attacked was naturally the Blue Dragon King, Shaoqin. He had only casually raised his hand to silently break the old man's powerful attack. This caused him to feel stifled, not daring to make any moves. Xiao Chen gently moved his wrist, and the lunar shadow saber spun around before he withdrew it. Only at this moment did the red-clothed old man's long hair, which had been blown up by the wind, fall down slightly. Fear flashed in the red-clad old man's heart. He looked at Xiao Chen and quietly took a step back. For this fellow to defeat Bai Feng so easily, he definitely did not rely on luck. The other 6 Emperor Wus all had similar thoughts in their hearts. They all unconsciously took a step back as well. With this step back, the strong aura of these Emperor Wus immediately dwarfed Xiao Chen's. The so-called heir of a king did not depend on who shouted the most ferociously or whose aura was the strongest. There was something called an aura field that would unknowingly make the opponent feel that they were a level lower than them. Where did this air come from? Naturally, it was because one was confident in one's heart and had real moves. Otherwise, with just a few words, an expert would expose one's pretense and trample on one's face. When the tens of thousands of people outside saw this scene, they suddenly understood why Xiao Chen was so calm. This was because Xiao Chen did not fear these 7 Emperor Wus at all. In their eyes, the aloof First Heaven Emperor Wu was nothing to Xiao Chen from the very start. When an ant shouted at an elephant, how could the elephant lower its status and get angry at the ant? The Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony will be held on the 28th of this month. If the seniors are free, we will definitely give you the highest treatment. After the 7 Emperor Wus stepped back, Xiao Chen said calmly with a cupped fist salute, not showing any arrogance on his face. When a person performed a cupped fist salute under certain circumstances, it meant that he was sending off the guest. Don't worry. At that time, the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace will definitely arrive on time and give you a big gift, the red-clad old man said through gritted teeth. Then, he flung his hand and left, his rage evident in his words. Although the Emperor Wus present were unwilling, they had to admit that they were no longer qualified to speak on equal terms with Xiao Chen. As for being superior, there was no need to even think about it. One by one, they swung their hands and left. However, the expressions in their eyes did not disappear. Clearly, they would not let this matter rest. In a distant pavilion in the city, the 3 martial emperor elders of the Lunar Palace, Myriad Fiend Island, and the Yin-Yang Paradise entered deep thought when they saw this scene. The 3 of them were rather neutral. Originally, they just wanted to watch a duel that would shock the entire circle of Emperor Wu's people. Unexpectedly, the truly explosive thing was what Xiao Chen said after the duel. Compared to the news of the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment, the commotion caused by that duel was nothing. The heir of a king is clear to see. At such a young age he already has such an heir. It is easier said than done to get the other Holy Lord to not fear him and believe his words. The Myriad Fiend Island's martial Emperor Wu shook his head and sighed. Tigers were feared not because tigers ate people but because tigers had the ability to do so. The Myriad Fiend Island's old man's words hit the nail on the head, exposing the logic of bandits in this world of power. One would not be killed because one wanted to dominate but because one had the ability to do so. The world absolutely could not allow a second Qing emperor to appear. They absolutely could not let the Dragon's Gate be re-established. The re-establishment of the Dragon's Gate would make Xiao Chen's luck even stronger. Most of the Holy Lord's people would not be willing to see such a scene. The Lunar Palace had always maintained a neutral policy. They would not express their stance on any matter at the first moment. At this moment, the female Emperor Wu, whom the Lunar Palace had placed in Heaven Dragon City, showed a rare change in her expression. Clearly, the news of Xiao Chen's re-establishment of the Dragon's Gate startled her, and she had not completely calmed down. When the Myriad Fiend Palace's old man heard this, he smiled faintly and said, "The Myriad Fiend Island is at the periphery of the heavenly starry ocean and rarely interferes with the internal affairs of the human race." Earlier, when the Blue Dragon King entered a state of berserking chi deviation, he did not rush to make a decision. I wonder if he can remain calm this time? When Xiao Chen entered a state of berserking chi deviation, this was a rare opportunity to kill him. The value of Xiao Chen's head tested the hearts of many cultivators. However, in the end, the Myriad Fiend Island's old man remained unmoved, choosing to remain calm. However, this time, Xiao Chen's words made it even harder for the lunar palace to remain calm. The myriad fiend island's ancient fiend smiled calmly and said, "There is no need for the lunar palace to worry about this. I am more curious about the lunar palace's attitude. 10,000 years ago, the Qing emperor had a lot of stories with the lunar palace." The myriad fiend island's ancient fiend laughed loudly and quickly left, preparing to send news of the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment back to the myriad fiend island. Humph! Rage flashed on the lunar palace's Emperor Wu's face as she left as well. Only the mature, charming woman from the yin-yang paradise remained. As she looked at the distant Xiao Qin, her charming face lit up. Boundless grace, truly moving. No wonder Su nearly fell for him when she saw him. If he were still young, I would not have dared to look at him. How unfortunate. The yin-yang paradise was famous for its dual cultivation. The female disciples did not have a good reputation, but no one knew about this. Such a sect had the inheritance of the ancient emotionless sect. While it looked unrestrained, one could not fall in love. Once one fell in love, it would damage the foundation of their cultivation technique, resulting in a backlash. After the three left, none of the Emperor Wus from the other holy lands of the Heaven Dragon Island remained. These martial emperors would definitely spread the news of Xiao Chen's re-establishment of the Dragon's Gate to their holy lands in the shortest time possible. After that, the news of the re-establishment of the Dragon's Gate would spread throughout the entire Kunlun realm in less than 3 days. This would result in a huge change. Up in the arena, Lan Xiaobai watched all the Emperor Wus leave. He heaved a sigh of relief. However, when he thought about how many more Emperor Wus would arrive on the 28th, he could not help frowning heavily. Xiao Chen's expression did not change much. He took out a name list that he had prepared long ago and handed it to Lan Xiaobai. He said, "This is the list of honored guests. Brother Xiaobai, I'll have to trouble you to send them invitations." Lan Xiaobai casually opened the invitation, and his expression suddenly froze. When he saw the names on it, he was somewhat flabbergasted. "Xiao Qin, are these really the honored guests of Heaven Dragon City willing to come?" The Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony was not an ordinary ceremony. Coming was not just to congratulate Xiao Qin but also to express their attitude, to show their support. Right now, Xiao Chen's relationship with the various holy lands was not very good. Under such circumstances, very few could withstand the pressure and come. Hence, Lan Xiaobai asked this. Xiao Qin replied with certainty, "It should not be a problem to send half. Several of the people here owe me favors. I believe that my judgment of people should not be too bad." "All right, I'll go and make the arrangements." Lan Xiaobai revealed joy on his face. As long as half of the people on the name list could come, the pressure on Heaven Dragon City would decrease significantly. Xiao Qin turned his head and said to Mo Qin, "There is still half a month. I'll leave the arrangements for the re-establishment ceremony to you." Mo Qin nodded obediently and said, "Don't worry. Leave it to me. This is just a small matter." That was right. To Mo Qin, this was indeed just a small matter. The important thing in her heart was that she wanted to personally help Xiao Qin. However, Xiao Qin improved too quickly. Now, even when facing First Heaven Emperor Wu, he could achieve an overwhelming victory. As for Mo Qin, even if she had the Book of Heavenly Works and improved rapidly, she still could not compare to Xiao Qin. Xiao Qin turned his head and looked at the many friends beside him. Yu Chenxi, Jin Lin, and the others all showed worried expressions. He smiled and said, "Let's go. Do what you need to do. This is not too difficult." To Xiao Qin, this was indeed not the most difficult hurdle. Compared to the great tribulation of wind and fire, this was far from it. If Xiao Qin could not even clear this hurdle, then he could forget about his great tribulation of wind and fire. He might as well just scatter his cultivation and be an ordinary person. Chapter 1273. After returning to his own summit, Xiao Qin continued to comprehend the Saber Domain. He kept feeling that this Saber Domain contained many mysteries. Even Senior Lan Chaofeng probably had not completely comprehended it yet. Many things were still vague to him. Ao Jiao, don't you think that Senior Lan Chaofeng's understanding of the saber domain is not that incredible? Senior Lan said that the saber domain was about the word domain. That was the right direction. However, Xiaochen felt that aside from the domain, the saber was equally important, perhaps even more so. If it were anyone else, they would definitely not dare to doubt their predecessors. However, Xiaochen was different. He had never been someone who only followed the path of others. Ao Jiao had followed the Thunder King, Sang Mu. Sang Mu could even comprehend the innate thunder crystal. Naturally, he comprehended the sword domain. Hence, Ao Jiao had some understanding of this. Actually, Xiaochen, think about it. Look at the entire Kunlun realm. Consider the entire Kunlun realm, the vast oceanic world, the Kunlun continent, the ancient races living on the other planets, and so on. Adding everything together, how many Emperor Wu do you think there are? Xiaochen had not thought about this problem in detail. It was not easy to become an Emperor Wu. However, once one became an Emperor Wu, they would be able to live for at least 2,000 years. How long was 2,000 years? During this time, many Emperor Wu would be born. There would also be some greater heavenly Emperor Wu and sovereign martial emperors who lived even longer. It would not be strange for them to live for 5,000 years. Adding all this up, the Kunlun realm should have more Emperor Wu than Xiaochen imagined. After all, there were just the 5 major races of the Kunlun continent. Aside from the corpse race and the ghost race, the other 3 races had populations in the tens of billions. However, no matter how many there were, they would not be that many. The threshold of the Great Tribulation of wind and fire was still there. Xiaochen estimated the number of Emperor Wus in the Kunlun realm. Including those old monsters who had lived for thousands of years, there would not be more than 3,000. This was the highest estimate. Perhaps even fewer, less than 2,000, or a little more than 1,000. Of course, all of these were just guesses. Xiaochen would only know the real answer when he became Emperor Wu. There were tens of billions of people, and Emperor Wu only had 3,000. With such a comparison, one could see why Emperor Wu had always been so high and mighty. Ao Jiao continued, let's go with the maximum that you mentioned. Of the 3,000 martial emperors, how many can comprehend a domain? Xiaochen frowned and replied, I'm afraid there are only about 100 people. After saying that, Xiaochen came to a sudden realization. How could such a small group of people possibly have such a thorough understanding of the various domains? Perhaps, all his doubts could only be answered after he left the land of exile. Right now, although Xiaochen had not advanced to martial emperor and had not reached the level of a peak expert like the Haotian Prime or the Flame Rock Sovereign, he was still a martial emperor. However, this was the first time he felt the restrictions of the Kunlun realm on him. He felt helpless, hating the heavens for being too low. As Xiaochen comprehended at the summit, a storm brewed. In the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace, the Western Sea Dragon King, who was a sovereign martial emperor, was the first to receive news of Xiaochen's intention to re-establish the Dragon's Gate before all the Holy Land's masters. Re-establishing the Dragon's Gate in my Western Sea? My wild ambitions are finally exposed. Rumble. Waves surged for 50 kilometers around the Western Divine Dragon Palace, and tsunamis surged. A red dragon image could be vaguely seen in the sky, roaring furiously. The Dragon King is angry. When all the affiliated islands of the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace saw this mysterious phenomenon, they all revealed horrified expressions. The Western Sea Dragon King had retired for many years already. All the affairs of the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace, big or small, were managed by the 3 vice palace masters. Ordinary people had not seen the Western Sea Dragon King for many years already. In the most extravagant palace of the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace, the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang sat on the throne in the middle with a scarily sullen expression. In the palace, the 3 vice palace masters and 10-odd martial emperor elders all sat upright and still, not daring to breathe too loudly. In Ao Lang's memory, the old Dragon King rarely got angry. This time he was truly angry. In the vast palace, an old man lowered his body and said something in a soft voice. This person was the old man that Xiao Chen forced back that day, the hidden pawn that the Western Sea Dragon King planted in Heaven Dragon City. This old man had the family name Zhong. At this moment, he lowered his head, not daring to look at the Western Sea Dragon King. Continue. What else did he say? That inexperienced brat, with just a little bit of success, he soared to the sky. Ao Lang continued with a sullen expression. Old Zhong thought for a while before continuing. That brat said that he would welcome the Dragon King and many other holy lords to watch the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony, and that he would give you the highest treatment. Ao Lang smacked the armrest heavily, unable to suppress his rage. He stood up and said, "What, the highest treatment? I'll go and meet this brat. Let's see what kind of treatment he will give me." Normally, Ao Lang was not in the Divine Dragon Palace. He spent his time adventuring in the starry heavens, seeking breakthroughs. This time, he received an urgent request from the 3 Vice Palace Masters, so he rushed back reluctantly. Originally, he thought that it was nothing major. Unexpectedly, not only did the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace get overtaken by a Heaven Dragon City, but a youth even beat up one of the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's martial Emperor Elders silly. The more ridiculous thing was yet to come. This inexperienced brat actually dared to say that he wanted to re-establish the Dragon's Gate. This was simply infuriating. The 3 greater Heavenly Emperor Wu's Vice Palace Masters quickly stood up. At the same time, they advised, "Big brother, you can't do that. You can't do that." The few of them knew that this big brother of theirs was famous for his fiery temper. When he did things, he rarely considered the consequences. Indeed, when the 3 Vice Palace Masters heard that Xiao Chen wanted to re-establish the Dragon's Gate, they immediately had an impulse to charge over personally. How could that do? If it were that simple, the various holy lords would not have been helpless against Xiao Chen until now. One should not forget that the one behind Xiao Chen was the Thunder King. Aside from the Thunder King, there was also the Haoyan Prime. If the Western Sea Dragon King went over, he probably would not be able to teach Xiao Chen a lesson. Instead, the Thunder King would teach him a lesson. The 3 Vice Palace Masters stated the pros and cons, trying to dissuade the rash Western Sea Dragon King. Ao Lang waved his hand and said, "Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I know how horrifying the Thunder King is. I just want to see what kind of person the descendant of the famous Qing Emperor is." The moment Ao Lang said that, the 3 Vice Palace Masters heaved a sigh of relief. This made sense. After all, Ao Lang was an overlord-class character. No matter how angry he was, he would not act rashly. "The 3 of you, split up and go to the Southern Sea Divine Dragon Palace, the Northern Sea Divine Dragon Palace, and the Eastern Sea Divine Dragon Palace. This time, not only do I want to gather all of Neptune's old subordinates but also the various holy lands. I want to suppress them with power." When the others heard that, their expressions changed slightly. "Big brother, that is not good, right? After the various holy lands receive the news, I believe that they will not be able to hold themselves back. However, no matter who it is, they will not be willing to take the lead. After all, the bird that sticks out gets shot. If the Thunder King comes to settle scores after this, we will be the first to suffer." A gleam flashed in Ao Lang's eyes. He said, "How can I not understand such a simple principle? However, now that things have reached this point, do you think I have any other choice? If this fellow were not in the Western Sea, I would not be taking the lead." Cut the crap. Just do as I say and do it quickly. After the various factions of Heavenly Star Island arranged for Emperor Wu to return, the many immortal holy lands and ancient noble clans received news of Xiao Chen wanting to re-establish the Dragon's Gate within one day. The upper echelons of the Lunar Palace, the Zodiac Hall, the Heavenly Province Academy, the Yin-Yang Paradise, the Myriad Fiend Island, and the 5 Poison Sect gathered together with grave expressions. The upper echelons of the Zodiac Hall and Heavenly Province Academy, who already had enmity with Xiao Chen, were enraged. Back then, the prestige of the Dragon's Gate was so great that every holy land had records of it. Regardless of which holy land it was, no one was willing to see the Dragon's Gate reappear. What really worried people was the fear that Xiao Chen would become the second Qing emperor. Tens of thousands of years ago, the Qing emperor had said, Xiao Chen will become the second Qing emperor. Then, the immortal Holy Land, the Minor Thunder Temple, was destroyed in an instant, and all of its inheritances were severed. None of the Holy Lands were willing to see such a tragedy happen to them. However, the upper echelons of the various Holy Lands did not have a good idea as to how to stop Xiao Chen. All of them felt a headache. One day later, the news of the Blue Dragon King wanting to re-establish the Dragon's Gate spread throughout the entire heavenly starry ocean, inciting many cultivators to discuss it. Anyone with some common sense would know what kind of risk this would entail and how furious the upper echelons of the Holy Lands would be. Along with this news came another rumor. The Blue Dragon King, Xiao Chen, personally killed a martial emperor elder of the Five Poison sect before tens of thousands of cultivators. After the Four Seas hero gathering, Xiao Chen, who had fallen silent in the heavenly starry ocean, became the focus of everyone's discussion once again. When the outstanding talents, who were waiting for Xiao Chen to become a meteor, heard this news, they all turned ashen and dispirited. Before advancing to martial emperor, Xiao Chen could already kill a bona fide Emperor Wu. Even if he became a meteor, Xiao Chen would definitely be the most resplendent meteor in the history of the entire Kunlun realm. 2 days later, the news spread throughout the entire oceanic world. The major factions of the Black Sea, the Human Demon Sea, the Dragon Grave Sea, the Storm Sea, and the Ice Sea all heard of it. When the Lunar Palace's holy daughter, Yu Bingyun, who was searching for the 10,000-year-old ice lotus in the Ice Sea, heard this news, she was stunned. He's too rash. How can he decide to re-establish the Dragon's Gate at this time? Without hesitation, Yu Bingyun immediately put down what she was doing and rushed to the Lunar Palace. All she wanted was to return quickly and see if she could influence the Lunar Palace's attitude. Given her position as the next palace master of the Lunar Palace, she should be able to put in some words. If the re-establishment of the Dragon's Gate failed, Xiao Chen's luck would be greatly affected. Yu Bingyun could not help but worry. 3 days later, the news spread to the Kunlun continent. All the peak factions of the 5 domains were set abuzz. Compared to the factions of the heavenly starry ocean, these Kunlun continent factions were much more at ease. After all, Heaven Dragon City was simply too far away. The only exception was the land of the human race's 3 holy masters. The Phoenix's Passion Palace, the White Emperor City, and the Divine Martial Gate, the 3 holy lords, gathered together once again. The reason for this was very interesting. With just one sentence, Xiao Chen stirred up the entire Kunlun realm, shocking the world. Since ancient times, probably only Xiao Chen could do this. A huge storm slowly brewed. No one knew how big of a commotion it would cause on the day of the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. Chapter 1274. As for the main character of this incident, the Blue Dragon King Xiao Chen, he was not as anxious or nervous as others imagined. He even looked rather relaxed. Dark clouds churned above Xiao Chen's mountain peak, and thunder roared endlessly. Occasionally, electricity flashed in the air. Xiao Chen lay on a rock, looking at the scenery with an indifferent expression as he toyed with the lunar shadow saber with one hand. Sometimes, the lunar shadow saber landed on Xiao Chen's fingertip. In the next moment, Xiao Chen's arm gently bumped into it. The lunar shadow saber moved about nimbly, like Xiao Chen had an extra arm. The lunar shadow saber's movements were graceful and natural, revealing a simple beauty. Suddenly, the dark clouds in the sky were sliced in half by an invisible force, like a sharp blade. It was like a soldier avoiding a general. This was the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang. As he walked over step by step, he used his invisible aura to carve out a path for himself in Xiao Chen's saber domain. The Western Sea Dragon King is here. Sorry for not coming out to greet you. This junior has been impolite. Ao Lang grabbed the leaping lunar shadow saber with a flip of his hand and gently placed it on the ground. Xiao Chen did not stand up. Instead, he sat on the flame rock and said indifferently as he looked at the newcomer. Within Xiao Chen's saber domain, Ao Lang felt like he was in his own world, completely unaffected. Ao Lang sized up Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen had long hair, white robes, and a handsome face. His eyes were as deep as an ancient well. Xiaoqin exuded an unperturbed, calm, and composed air. What a strong mental state. After seeing me, he can still remain so calm, not angry, not arrogant, and not rash. However, Xiaoqian's next words and actions incited the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang's rage once more. Since Xiaoqian already knew his identity, he still did not stand up to greet him, putting on airs before him. You also know that you were impolite? You are the first blue-robed emperor who dares to sit and speak to me. Who taught you to be so arrogant? Although the Western Sea Dragon King was furious, it was not that he did not act rashly. Instead, he grasped a point and started to pressure Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin smiled faintly and said, "You are a senior, a seventh heaven sovereign martial emperor. He can kill me with a single thought. I was supposed to be humble and bow. But you are the West Sea Dragon King, and I am also the Blue Dragon King appointed by the Thunder King of Bushin Palace. We are both Dragon Kings. If I were to bow my head to you, it would be equivalent to Bushin Palace lowering its head to you. You would not be able to accept my bow." Ao Lang's expression changed slightly. Xiaoqin was eloquent. What a great, I am not worthy of his respect. Ao Lang had no way of retorting. He easily neutralized the pressure from his words, not giving him any chance at all. Xiaoqin stood up and continued, "Senior, you are probably here for the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony this month, right? What advice do you have for me? Feel free to speak freely." Ao Lang narrowed his eyes slightly. For the first time, he felt that this youth before him was exceptionally difficult to deal with. It felt like his hands and feet were tied. "Let me ask you this. Did you think about the feelings of my Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace when you established the Dragon's Gate in this Western Sea? If the luck of Heaven Dragon City increases, the luck of my Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace will definitely decrease. Do you think that there is anything to discuss between us?" Xiaoqin narrowed his eyes and said sullenly, "Of course, there is. Since the decrease in luck is unavoidable, why not assess the situation and rely on whoever has great luck? Naturally, my luck will not decrease. Instead, it will rise with the tide, rising higher and higher. If we oppose each other, naturally, it will be hard to avoid a decrease in luck." When Ao Lang heard this, he laughed loudly and said, "You are really boundlessly arrogant. You are just an insignificant consummation blue-robed emperor, and you actually dare to say such words before me. You want me to assess the situation and make the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace lower its head to you? You are too naive." "Naive?" Xiaoqian's lips curled up slightly. With a flash, he landed on a tall rock at the edge of the cliff. Then, he stood at the highest point of this world and looked down at Ao Lang. "Dragon King, are you still unable to see the situation clearly? This world has changed long ago. Soon, a golden age will descend. Batches of outstanding talents will push open the Emperor's door. In the situation, all decaying things that do not know how to adapt will be washed away by the current until their bones shatter. If we can take advantage of the situation, the old tree can blossom, the withered tree will gain new life and rise further. Western Sea Dragon King, can't you see through it? Or do you feel that you are a seventh heaven martial emperor and a sovereign martial emperor? That is already something to be proud of and that there is no need to improve further?" A strong wind blew. This was the wind of kingship. As Xiaoqin stood on the rock, he silently spread out the state of kingship from his body. The separated thunderclouds in the sky slowly closed. Xiaoqian's saber domain slowly forced the Western Sea Dragon King out. The Western Sea Dragon King frowned heavily. He did not resist, letting the other party force him out. In reality, as long as the Western Sea Dragon King was willing, Xiaoqian would not be able to force him out. However, Xiaoqian's words caused the Western Sea Dragon King's mind to buzz. The Western Sea Dragon King entered deep thought. This world had already changed. If one did not follow the trend, one would end up getting crushed by the surging current. The Western Sea Dragon King's original intention was to use the trend to force Xiaoqin. Who knew, in the end, Xiaoqin actually used the trend to force him. Boom! Suddenly, the Western Sea Dragon King startled awake. He glared, and his aura burst forth. With this glance, the thunderclouds in the sky immediately turned to nothing. The thunderclouds were gone, and the sunlight immediately swept down, bathing the top of the mountain in golden light. What a great blue dragon king! If he becomes Emperor Wu, with such elegance, he will definitely be able to convince me. Ao Lang calmed himself down and said indifferently, "If you become a martial emperor, perhaps I might be able to stop after hearing what you said. However, even though you are now in limitless glory, tribulation clouds cover your head. You cannot even determine your own future, yet you want to convince me?" After saying that, the Western Sea Dragon King stepped forward. Ao Jiao said coldly, "I'll give you a chance. If you give up on re-establishing the Dragon's Gate now, my Divine Dragon Palace will definitely not seek trouble for your Heaven Dragon City in the future. Otherwise, don't blame me for forcing you with my momentum. On the day of the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony, I will show you what the trend is. Even gods and Buddhas cannot stop me." Bathed in the sunlight, Xiao Chen faced the Western Sea Dragon King's overbearing aura. Then he enunciated every word clearly. "In that case, I will respectfully await your arrival. Show me the overwhelming momentum that you speak of." The Western Sea Dragon King stomped his foot and said coldly, "Goodbye. Don't blame me for bullying you, not giving you a chance." Bang! 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 The instant the Western Sea Dragon King turned around, the mountain below Xiao Chen crumbled, turning into countless shards. Under the Western Sea Dragon King's foot, the tall mountain crumbled and crumbled effortlessly. It is impolite not to reciprocate. Since Senior destroyed this mountain, then bring it back as well. The white-robed Xiao Chen instantly drew the lunar shadow saber in his hand. The originally crumbling saber domain quickly recovered in an instant, and the thunderclouds reformed. The instant the saber light flickered, the mountain, which had shattered into countless shards, reformed with the vast saber intent that Xiao Chen executed with his saber domain. However, this time, it no longer looked like a mountain. Instead, it looked like a saber. A 3-kilometer-long saber flickered with purple electric light. As Xiao Chen swung his saber, it moved like lightning towards the Western Sea Dragon King. Disdain flashed in the eyes of the Western Sea Dragon King. Then he turned around and threw a palm strike. 7 layers of light appeared behind him. The vast primordial energy caused space to ripple like water. The force of the palm strike blocked the saber. As expected, the scene of the saber turning into powder did not appear. Instead, it gave off a muffled sound like thunder on a clear day, echoing in all directions. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber and smiled. "I'll have to trouble Senior to take this mountain away." A grave look flashed in Ao Lang's eyes. He could tell that Xiao Chen's saber domain had already reached a certain level. Earlier, when Ao Lang looked over, his vast aura had not shattered the other party's saber domain. However, it had followed Xiao Chen's thoughts and instantly hid in the surroundings. The saber domain had always been there. Hence, the other party could rely on the saber domain to execute such a strong saber strike in such a short time. Good saber technique. You have made this king see you in a different light once again. I will borrow this mountain for now. I will return it to you after the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. In this battle, he had unknowingly fallen into a disadvantageous position before a junior. Ao Lang felt that he was too ashamed to remain here. He suppressed the rage in his heart and turned his head to glare at Xiao Chen. Then he left Heaven Dragon Island at lightning speed. Like a little bird, Xiao Chen slowly descended from the sky. A light flashed in his eyes as he muttered to himself, "Saber domain, saber domain. The saber is in front, and the domain is behind. Of course, the saber is more important." This exchange with the Western Sea Dragon King allowed Xiao Chen to gain an even more thorough understanding of the saber domain. Xiao Chen could no longer cultivate the saber domain according to the experience of others. Senior Lan had only led Xiao Chen through the door. Xiao Chen could only rely on himself for the rest. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Wind whistled, and 2 figures landed. It was Mo Chen and Lan Xiaobai rushing over at the same time. When they saw the mountain where Xiao Chen cultivated turn into nothing, their expressions changed drastically. What's going on? Who was here earlier? Xiao Chen answered honestly, the Western Sea Dragon King, Ao Lang. When Lan Xiaobai and Mo Chen heard this, their hearts sank at the same time. A shadow flashed in their minds. The commotion caused by the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony was already starting to show. It had only been a few days, and the Western Sea Dragon King could not help but come out personally. In that case, what kind of pressure would he face during the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony in the future? Ao Lang showed a sullen expression as he returned to the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace with a huge stone saber on his back. At this moment, the 3 Vice Palace Masters of the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace had already rushed to the other Divine Dragon Palaces. The martial Emperor Elders had gone to seek out the many holy lands of the heavenly starry ocean. When the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's young palace master Ao Yu saw Ao Lang return, he revealed an expression of joy and immediately led some people to welcome him. "Father, you must have taught Xiao Chen a ruthless lesson, right?" Ao Yu said excitedly. Back then, Xiao Chen had forced him to his knees with one palm strike. That memory was still fresh in his mind. Ao Lang showed a sullen expression, not saying anything. Ao Yu could not make out Ao Yu's expression, so he continued to smile and chatter. As Ao Yu sized up the exaggerated 3-kilometer-long stone saber, he said, "Father, this is your war trophy, right? This saber is pretty good. What rank is it? That brat Xiao Chen will definitely feel the pinch." But after suppressing the rage in his heart for a long time, Ao Lang could no longer hold it in. He slapped Ao Lang's face and said, "Trash. If you had even a tenth of Xiao Chen's elegance, I would not have to worry so much about him re-establishing the Dragon's Gate." Only then did the group of attendants realize that the Dragon King had suffered a loss at Heaven Dragon Island and was currently feeling depressed. Chapter 1275. Bang! Xiao Lang put down the stone saber on his back, causing the ground to tremble. The lightning saber intent on the saber had yet to vanish, crackling and flickering endlessly. Ao Lang said coldly, "Look after this stone saber well. On the day of the ceremony, I will personally deliver it to that brat." After thinking for a while, Ao Lang looked into the distance and said indifferently, "I'm afraid that I will have to personally go to some places." After personally seeing Xiao Chen, Ao Lang's heart turned even heavier. The Blue Dragon King Xiao Chen was much harder to deal with than he had imagined. At the same time, the envoys of the Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace arrived in the various holy lands of the heavenly starry ocean. When these holy lords heard the purpose of the envoys' arrival, they all rejoiced in their hearts. Just as they were worrying about how to deal with Xiao Chen, the Western Sea Divine Dragon King stepped forward to lead the charge. This was simply the best outcome. One Xiao Chen was not scary. What was scary was the Haotian Prime behind Xiao Chen and the Thunder King. Since someone was willing to bear this unknown revenge and take the lead to ruin the ceremony, these holy lords were naturally happy to do this favor. The Heavenly Province Academy, the 5 Poison Sect, and the Zodiac Hall, these 3 immortal holy lands, did not even think about it before agreeing to the Western Sea Dragon King's invitation. Only the Yin-Yang Paradise, Myriad Fiend Island, and the Lunar Palace did not respond immediately. As for the other ancient noble clans, most of them agreed. On Myriad Fiend Island, Di Xinhan, who had fought with Xiao Chen at the Four Seas Hero Gathering, did his best to dissuade the many fiends on the island from participating in the Western Sea Dragon King's plan. Di Xinhan advised, "Uncles, I fought with this Xiao Chen before. It is fine if this person is nothing, but he will definitely not be a second Qing emperor. The Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony is most likely the responsibility of the Shao clan's descendants to revive the Dragon's Gate and protect its inheritance. Dear, you are still young. You do not know what it means for him to re-establish the Dragon's Gate. Whether he is willing or not, when the Dragon's Gate is re-established in the heavenly starry ocean, the luck of the various holy lands will uncontrollably flow to him." Di Xinhan shook his head and said, "This is a reason that only the weak would agree to. The strong and the weak depend on themselves. If that's the case, then even if our demon island is given great luck, it will certainly not be able to develop." As they argued endlessly, An aged voice suddenly came from the simple and unadorned palace. Just prepare a generous gift for the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. Don't participate in anything else. The moment the voice rang out, the faces of everyone present changed. The one who had spoken was Patriarch Myriad Demon. The old ancestor of the Demon Island has a supreme status on the Demon Island. Like the Lunar Palace's Palace Master and the Zodiac Hall's Astral Lord, he was one of the three primes. When the old ancestor spoke, the group of elders immediately stopped objecting. Di Shinhan heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he felt somewhat suspicious. He had no idea why the old ancestor, who had been in seclusion for 1,000 years, would suddenly care about this matter. The bewitching women of the Yin-Yang Paradise discussed for a while before rejecting the Western Sea Dragon King's envoy as well. On the other hand, he giggled and asked the emissary to stay in the Yin-Yang Paradise for a few more days. This startled the emissary into laughing abashedly and quickly leaving. The women of the Yin-Yang Paradise were famous for being ruthless. How could the emissary dare to stay? This made the group of women cover their mouths and laugh endlessly. Inside the Lunar Palace, the Lunar Palace's Palace Master, who had been tempted by the emissary's persuasion, was interrupted by Yu Bingyun, who suddenly rushed back. After learning that Xiao Qin had saved Yu Bingyun's life, the Lunar Palace's Palace Master showed a complicated expression, remaining silent for a long time. Yu Bingyun, who was at the side, felt very nervous. She did not know what decision her master would make in the end. Just take it as repaying him a favor. The Lunar Palace will not participate in this matter. As for whether he can clear this stage or not, that will depend on himself. The Lunar Palace will absolutely not help the Qing Emperor's descendant. Yu Bingyun's heart sank. This was not the result she wanted. However, when she saw her master's firm tone, she did not dare to say anything more. Of the 6 immortal Holy Lands, although 3 of them confirmed that they would not participate, the Western Sea Dragon Kings still managed to win over the other 3 Holy Lands and most of the ancient noble clans. Together with them, they would be a colossus that could force any faction to give way. The Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang personally appeared and gathered the leaders of these factions together. Then he started to discuss the countermeasures that he had prepared long ago. The countermeasures were very simple. They would use their strength to suppress others, using their vast faction to put boundless pressure on Xiao Qin, making him give up on re-establishing the Dragon's Gate. The storm targeting the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony had already accumulated horrifying energy. Once the time was up, it would launch a sneak attack. However, the Western Sea Dragon King still did not seem satisfied. After organizing the factions of the Heavenly Starry Ocean, he personally set off for the Kunlun continent. At a certain mysterious seabed in the Heavenly Starry Ocean, Yi Ling, who had already reconnected his arm, walked hastily through the palace at the bottom of the sea, rushing to a secret room. The most mysterious person in the entire oceanic world sat in the secret room, the Treasure Master. Yi Ling did not push open the door to the secret room. In reality, even a sovereign martial emperor would find it hard to push open this door. Outside the secret room, Yi Ling directly said, "Father, the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony will be held in half a month. At that time, Xiao Qin will re-establish the Dragon's Gate and formally establish the Dragon's Gate." However, there was no commotion from the secret room at all. It seemed like the person inside was not interested in this news at all. "Father, say something." He broke off both my arms. "You have not helped me take revenge for this. Now he is going to re-establish the Dragon's Gate. Could it be that we are just going to watch as that happens?" Yi Ling said in a somewhat trembling voice as he knelt on the ground, feeling anxious. Inside the secret room, the Treasure Master, who was shrouded in black shadows, opened his eyes. 14 images surrounded him, guarding him. If one looked carefully, one would discover that these images were exactly the same as the huge immortal statues that the Treasure Master controlled in the Heavenly Starry Ocean. However, they were much smaller. "I have my own plans for this matter. There is no need for you to worry about it. Cultivate properly and don't waste your time," the Treasure Master said indifferently. Yi Ling did not get up. Feeling dissatisfied, he asked, "Father, When can I take revenge for my arms? Anytime. As long as you are stronger than him, there is no need to continue pestering me. You are interrupting my closed-door cultivation. The treasure master waved his hand, and a strong energy surged through the air. Whether Yi Ling was willing or not, he was pushed out of the many barriers, unable to enter again. Undercurrents flowed, and a storm arrived. Xiaochen, who stirred up such a storm, did not show much anxiety. He continued to comprehend the island in a seemingly leisurely manner, cultivating without stopping for even a moment. Xiaochen would only read the letters he received when he was free. The people in the letters were all honored guests that he had invited to participate in the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. As Xiaochen looked at the letters with roughly the same content, he felt gratified. Xiaochen did not have many friends. However, at the crucial moment, they would help him without hesitation, not delaying at all. The Northern Sea Alliance's alliance chief, the 13 great bandits of the Black Sea, the Geomaster Jiang Tian, the merfolk Queen Yao Yen, the White-Bone Sovereign, all these people replied with simple words. However, their attitudes were very clear in their words. After putting away the letters, Xiaochen muttered, "Western Sea Dragon King, you want to use power to suppress me. Let's see who will be the one suppressing whom." Right after Xiaochen put away the letters, a guest arrived in the courtyard. Emochen walked in a hurry. Emochen appeared somewhat fatigued. Aside from fatigue, there was also a heavy look in the depths of her eyes. Seeing Emochen enter, Xiaochen revealed a smile. He stood up and invited her to take a seat. Then he personally poured tea for her and served her well. "Big brother Xiaochen, there is no need to be so polite with me." Emochen picked up the teacup and took a sip, smiling faintly. "It's what I should do. I owe you too much. Everything I do is what I should do." Xiaochen said sincerely, his words filled with sincerity. Emochen and Lan Xiaobai had been the ones handling the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. They had been incredibly busy, not having any time to rest. On the other hand, Xiaochen, the main character of this matter, was surprisingly idle. Aside from comprehending the saber domain, he did not do anything else. When Xiaochen wanted to help, Emochen sternly rejected him, not letting him interfere. In reality, Xiaochen also knew that Emochen felt sorry for him. Emochen knew better than anyone that the one under the greatest pressure in re-establishing the Dragon's Gate would definitely be Xiaochen. If Emochen could help Xiaochen a little, she would definitely do her best, not letting Xiaochen worry too much. Emochen put down the teacup and cut to the chase, directly stating the purpose of her visit. "Everything is ready. We will start paying respects to the ancestors 3 days from now. Xiaobai told me to come and inform you." Paying respects to the ancestors was the first step of the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. After paying respects to the ancestors, it was time to open the doors to welcome guests and receive congratulations from all over. What would come would eventually come. However, now that it really came, Xiaochen could not help but feel somewhat rueful. Is it starting? Time really flies. Time did indeed pass very quickly. If Xiaochen counted carefully, he had already been in the Kunlun realm for 14 years. Since he left Mo City's Xiao clan, it had been even longer. When he looked back, only a blink of an eye had passed. "Big brother Xiao," Emochen interrupted when she saw Xiaochen's somewhat distracted expression. Xiaochen recovered his wits and smiled. "I understand. I will make my preparations 3 days from now. Paying respects to the ancestors is a major matter. There cannot be any mistakes." Emochen revealed a trace of worry in her eyes. There is no need to worry about paying respects to the ancestors. Even if those people do not understand the rules, they will not cause trouble at this time. After paying respects to the ancestors is the unveiling of the plaque. We will have to accept the congratulations from all over. This is the key. When paying respects to the ancestors, no one would come and cause trouble for you. However, it would be hard to say when people from all over came to congratulate you and open the doors to welcome guests. A resolute light appeared in Xiaochen's eyes. "I want to re-establish the Dragon's Gate. No one can stop me." 3 days later, the paying respects to the ancestors began. Xiaochen stood in the middle, with Emochen and Lan Xiaobai on his left and right. Yu Chenxi, Jin Lin Yu, and the others followed behind. The group had solemn expressions as they arrived at the Blue Dragon Mausoleum outside Heaven Dragon City. Buried under the Blue Dragon Mausoleum were the remains of the Dragon's Gate Primes, the heroic spirits that fought to the death for the Dragon's Gate. Many nameless tombstones stood erect, adding a sense of solemnity to this solemn atmosphere. Shao Chen knelt on the ground, feeling a sense of responsibility and emotion in his heart as he knelt before these Dragon's Gate martyrs. In the past, the Dragon's Gate swept through the world, achieving great military merits. However, luck fluctuated. The Qing Emperor fell, and the Dragon's Gate was destroyed. 10,000 years later, there were no inheritances. Chapter 1276. During the solemn and respectful ancestral worship ceremony, an old man announced the glory and decline of the Dragon's Gate in a loud and clear voice. Originally, most people already knew about this matter. However, such a scene deeply touched everyone's hearts. In the history of the Kunlun realm, no sect had ever had such a glorious history as the Dragon's Gate. The Dragon's Gate swept through everywhere, unrivaled in the world, and no one dared to disobey it. However, such a strong sect did not fall to the deep abyss demon races in the end. Instead, it fell to the many holy lands of the Kunlun realm. The glory came to an end. The Shao clan's direct bloodline was chased down to the lower realm, becoming a small clan that declined. Just for the sake of survival, they had to struggle in fear. They could not even deal with a few unranked clans. If the story ended here, it would only make people sigh a little before there would be no more. After the Qing Emperor, the white-robed Shao Chen appeared. In a few short years, he gained great fame in the Kunlun realm. He swept through all the younger generation of the Kunlun continent and the Four Seas. Now, as a consummation blue-robed emperor, Shao Chen defeated a true Emperor Wu. After the Qing Emperor, Shao Chen carried great luck and fame, announcing to the world that the Dragon's Gate, which was destroyed 10,000 years ago, would reappear today. The ancestral worship ceremony proceeded in an orderly manner, following the procedure that Lan Xiaobai had prepared long ago, proceeding step by step. Splash, splash, splash. Shao Chen picked up a flask of fine wine and poured it all over the ground. Then he slowly raised his cup. The Dragon's Gate's direct descendants behind him raised their cups as well, facing the Blue Dragon Mausoleum and draining it in one go. Shao Chen's eyes blazed with determination. He had waited too long for this day. He had also waited long enough to offer this cup of wine to the heroic spirits of the Dragon's Gate's ancestors. Let's go. Everyone follow me. Let's open the gates and welcome the guests, to congratulate the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment. Shao Chen placed the empty wine cup on the ground. Then, he turned around and led the group to the Blue Dragon Plaza. There was an unveiling ceremony waiting for Shao Chen. There was also a storm waiting for Shao Chen to endure. Many guests filled the Blue Dragon Plaza. The Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony was a major event that had already startled the entire heavenly starry ocean. Almost all the cultivators who did not have urgent matters on hand and did not need to enter closed-door cultivation rushed over. This was a rare event that happened once in 1,000 years. These people did not want to miss this chance. Moreover, everyone knew that there would definitely be a good show to watch during the ceremony. They casually prepared a congratulatory gift and waited for the show to begin. On the high platform, Shao Chen sat in the middle, looking at the bustling crowd in the square. His expression did not change much. Lan Xiaobai had already made arrangements to welcome these cultivators from all over the world. Aside from a small number of people who were qualified to stand on this high platform, the rest did not need Shao Chen to personally welcome them. I am Feng Bing of the Eastern Sea. I am here to congratulate the Blue Dragon King on re-establishing the Dragon's Gate. The Southern Sea's sky-splitting sect is here to congratulate the Blue Dragon King on re-establishing the Dragon's Gate. The Autumn Water Palace is here to congratulate the Blue Dragon King on re-establishing the Dragon's Gate. We present a congratulatory gift. People kept coming to congratulate him, and the gifts were casually placed aside, piling up like a mountain. It was noisy and bustling, but Shao Chen's heart was tranquil. Aside from standing up to greet people he knew and reminiscing about old times, Xiao Chen's gaze remained fixed on the Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet on the high platform. The Dragon's Gate's mountain tablet was personally made by the Qing Emperor using the heaven-subduing stone. At this moment, it was covered by azure dragon flags. However, when the dragon banner was unfurled and the mountain tablet reappeared, the most crucial step of the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony would be completed. Seeing that it was almost noon, the people around Xiaochen started to get anxious. For some reason, the honored guests of the heavenly starry ocean, who should have arrived long ago, did not show up even though the unveiling ceremony was about to begin. Xiaochen, something seems to have happened, Lan Xiaobai sent an anxious voice projection. Xiaochen remained calm, indicating that there was no need to worry. Reporting. The Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang leads the divine dragon palaces of the 4 seas, the 7-colored dragon marquises, the 3 immortal holy lands, and the 9 ancient noble clans, to congratulate the Blue Dragon King on re-establishing the Dragon's Gate. It was a long list of names, and every single one of them had a shocking background. They were all overlords of a region, and as they read on, their voices began to tremble. At the entrance of the Blue Dragon Plaza, the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang laughed loudly as he led a group of people over in a grandiose manner. These people's footsteps were heavy as they walked over in a grandiose manner, causing the ground to tremble. Their auras were pressing, and their gazes were as sharp as sabers as they pointed at Xiaochen, who sat in the middle of the high platform. The most eye-catching thing was that each of these people carried a 3-kilometer-long weapon on their back. Be it a stone saber, a spear, or a treasure sword, all of them were made of stone without exception. They looked very strange, inciting discussion among the crowd. After Ao Lang walked in, the extraordinarily bustling plaza instantly turned extremely quiet. No one dared to speak loudly. Everyone knew that Ao Lang was here to cause trouble. When everyone looked at the various major characters with overwhelming auras beside the Western Sea Dragon King, their hearts sank. Under the pressure of the strong auras, they found breathing somewhat difficult. Ao Lang laughed loudly and said, "Little brother Xiaochen, as you wished, this king and the other fellow Taoists arrived on time. Hey, something seems off. Xiaochen, your pomp seems a little small. Why do I not see a single one of the 9 ranks of the great families? The re-establishment of the Dragon's Gate is a little too stingy." Ha! Xiaochen's heart skipped a beat. He guessed that something had happened to the 9 ranks of the great families that he invited, and the Western Sea Dragon King blocked them. However, Xiaochen did not panic. Ao Lang might be able to block the people of the 9 ranks of the great families. However, he did not believe that the other party could block the truly major characters. Xiaochen stood up and said with a double meaning, "Senior Ao is too kind. With the group of people that Senior Ao is leading, the pomp is already sufficient." Ao Lang smiled and said, "Since we are here, we cannot come empty-handed. Blue Dragon King, please give us some face and accept my Western Sea Divine Dragon Palace's congratulatory gift." Right after Ao Lang spoke, his face sank. He raised the huge stone saber on his back and circulated his primordial energy, charging ferociously at Xiaochen. The 3-kilometer-long stone saber was as large as a mountain. Infused with primordial energy, its destructive power was easy to imagine. "Blue Dragon King, please give us some face and accept my 5 poison sects congratulatory gift." "Blue Dragon King, please do not give us any face for the congratulatory gift of my Heavenly Province Academy. There is also my Zodiac Hall's congratulatory gift. Please, Blue Dragon King, accept it as well." The ancient noble clans have also prepared a generous gift. "Please, Blue Dragon King, accept it." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Amid everyone's startled cries, 10-odd 3-kilometer-long sabers infused with primordial energy surged toward Xiaochen, who was on the high platform. The honored guests on the high platform had never seen such a formation before. They all paled in fright as they quickly fled. Every 3-kilometer-long saber was made by a greater heavenly Emperor Wu at the very least. Such a horrifying attack was equivalent to 10-odd greater heavenly Emperor Wu launching their peak strikes at the same time. If Xiao Chen stood there and did not leave, aside from getting injured to the point where he could not get up, there would be no other result. As Xiao Chen looked at the incoming sabers, rage burned in his heart. He had long expected that the Western Sea Dragon King would do anything to disrupt the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. However, he had not expected it to be so direct. A powerful storm roared over. If Xiao Chen did not retreat, he would definitely die a horrible death. However, he was the Dragon's Gate's master. If he retreated, this Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony would be a joke. This was a pile of lethal congratulatory gifts. Even if he did not want to accept them, he had to accept them. The Western Sea Dragon King smiled coldly and said, "Blue Dragon King, if you do not even give us this little face, I think you might as well stop holding this Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony. You are not even accepting our congratulatory gifts. Your Dragon's Gate must be filled with wild ambition, completely looking down on us." The sky was completely covered by dozens of giant blades, blocking all the sunlight. The square was instantly plunged into darkness. The 10-odd huge sabers pressed towards the high platform seemingly slowly but were actually very fast. As they moved slowly, they pressed down on the entire space, looking like waves surging and surging. Everyone knew that with Xiao Chen's strength, he would not be able to receive these 10-odd huge sabers. However, the Western Sea Dragon King still said that. Clearly, he wanted to force Xiao Chen into a dead end. Although Xiao Chen could defeat the first Heaven Emperor Wu with his current strength, he was only a consummation blue-robed emperor, after all. How could he receive so many huge sabers? Each of the 10-odd huge sabers contained a strong strike from a greater heavenly Emperor Wu. Even just one saber was more than enough to deal with Xiao Chen. Furthermore, there were 10-odd sabers at the same time. This was simply asking for his life. It's over. Now, the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony is going to fail from the start. Xiao Chen will definitely not dare to receive the attacks of 13 greater heavenly Emperor Wu. How unfortunate. I thought that there would be an evenly matched fight. Unexpectedly, the Western Sea Dragon King is so decisive, not giving Xiao Chen a chance to vent at all. The unveiling ceremony of the Dragon's Gate's re-establishment ceremony has not started yet. It looks like it will die in the womb. Even if it does not die in the womb, he will not be able to re-establish the Dragon's Gate. Did you not see what kind of people are following the Western Sea Dragon King? As the discussions continued, all the guests on the high platform had already left in fright. Only Xiao Chen and Emo Chen remained. A horrifying mic pressed down, and the two felt heavy pressure on their shoulders. It was like they were carrying a mountain, wanting to crush every inch of their bones. "Big brother Xiao Chen, I'm going to activate the Heaven Dragon City's Blue Dragon Heaven locking formation. Otherwise, I will not be able to receive these 14 huge sabers." The Heavenly Dragon City itself was a huge secret treasure. When it was built, every corner tower was covered in complicated array patterns. There were restrictions everywhere. Although it was not completed yet, the Blue Dragon Heaven locking formation in the city was more than enough to receive these 14 huge sabers. There's no need. The Blue Dragon Heaven locking formation was the Dragon's Gate's greatest trump card. It would be too much of a pity to use it now. Xiao Chen looked coldly at the Western Sea Dragon King Ao Lang. Then, he said indifferently, "Senior Ao is too serious. How can I not accept the congratulatory gifts of the various holy lands?" The entire place was set abuzz. Xiao Chen's decision was unexpected. Unexpectedly, he chose to step forward. What a madman! Is he committing suicide? The Western Sea Dragon King laughed loudly and said in an overbearing manner, "In that case, what are you standing there for? Quickly accept it. We already sent you the congratulatory gifts. However, if you do not appreciate it, don't blame us for not giving you face." Disdain flashed in the eyes of the leaders of the various holy lands and ancient noble clans. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.